What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmaker's Corner podcast. I'm your host for today, Simon Villanos, aka Coach V. It is May 31st when I am recording this intro here. And, the women's college flag football season is over, but that does not mean the content is over. We are now in the off season, and a whole bunch is going down. This is what we got. We are obviously going to cover some flag football off-season news. Every now and then, we'll do an episode here soon, just reacting to all the transfers, coaching fires, rumors, stuff like that going on as well. Maybe not too many rumors, but we do have our ear to the ground and have heard some things. And so that'll be coming soon, obviously. We'll look back at teams and their performances from the 2026 season. We might even, look back at old games and do film breakdowns and reactions to those games as well. Just coming back to those classic women's college flag football games that have happened over the year, because there have been a couple since we started covering in 2022 that are definitely worth looking at again. We'll obviously preview some teams going into next season, but until we get the rosters in January of next year, there's really not too much we could do there. So we're going to go back to our roots. And here at the Playmaker's Corner, we started out as a podcast that promoted athletes, right? We wanted to promote athletes during the COVID-19 era, basically, and get some stories out there, help athletes get opportunities, and we started in our own community right here in Colorado. We started with boys football, and then obviously we help advocate for girls flag football. We covered the entire pilot program seasons, both of them, and then including the first sanctioned season ever. So we had a hand in helping, that become a thing here in Colorado, girls high school flag football. And there have been so many great athletes we've been able to cover, on the high school level and even now on the college level, as Colorado has put out a decent amount of players who are producing at a high level as underclassmen so far here, which is always awesome to see. And so, but we're going back to our roots. Like I said, we were a podcast that spotlighted players, that gave them opportunities, and that really talked about what made them great. And we did that by doing film breakdowns. You could go back and look at our episodes super early on. We did this for girls high school flag football as well, for a number of players down in Florida. We covered Devin Silvestri out of Newsom. We covered a lot of Leonard players. Shout out Coach Combs, who's actually now the head coach over at Indiana Wesleyan, I believe. But we covered a lot of his great players like Caitlin Sigmundy, who was a great 4-year player, a legend of the game. Emma Balacco, who ended up becoming a great 3 or 4 year starter and played everywhere. Savannah Cox, who ended up joining them at Weber this past year. Deja Fanning, who did her thing at Florida Memorial. We covered a bunch of Texas Fury girls. Ava Wallace, Ashley Clam, Lauren Clark, back when they were high school and they ended up becoming stars. And we predicted that. Not that was hard to predict. That was obviously, it was what it was with them. And so really, we're just coming back to our roots. It's been a really long time since I've done a film breakdown, and I'm kind of the one who has headed up those things. I really love breaking down film, getting analytical with it, and just looking and nitpicking at the things that I think players, do that make them great. And some of them are obvious, and some of them are very little things that separate them from other players around the country. And this is a growing sport. There are so many great players here. But when it comes down to it, there are things that separate great players from good players from decent players, and decent players from players who have a lot of potential but are not quite there yet, right? And so it is my job to go ahead and tell you what that is and why that makes them great, and so I'm really excited to hop into it. These 3 players that we have on this episode are players that I'm super familiar with. I have covered their flag football careers since they started in high school. And then two of them, really one of them, I got to follow as she played some great games in college her freshman year as well. And so I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it right now. We got Saylor Swanson, the quarterback out of Arvada West, quarterback DB out of Arvada West, played for Wingate her freshman year, as well as her old teammate, Sara Walker, played for Arvada West, wide receiver DB, played for Wingate this past season. And then last but not least, we have the first ever commit for women's college flag football on the D1 Power 4 level, Ariana Akey, the quarterback athlete out of Mountain Vista here, who was the first ever signee to Nebraska, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, Nebraska was the first Power 4 D1 program that has decided to offer flag football and start an official flag football season set to play in 2028. So not next season, but in 2 years, which will make things interesting as we project forward just a little bit there. But, you know, these three players were some of the first players that they ever signed. Obviously, Ariana was the first one. And then soon after, you had Sara Walker, Saylor Swanson joining her there in Nebraska. And so I think Nebraska is getting some studs, some great players to build their program off of. Shout out the Sauer sisters. There's a funny story I want to tell before we get into the film breakdown and get all analytical, because I think when it comes to breaking down these players, especially when it comes to players that I've been following and covering and like promoting for a while, it's easy to get sentimental. And so I really try to put the sentimental away, get real analytical when it comes to the film breakdowns here. And so this is me putting that away by starting with this story. But 2 years ago, I think it was the 2024 Flag Football Championship, November 2nd. It was Mountain Vista versus Arvada West. Ironically enough, this was the first, I want to say this was one of the first games that I covered in the very first year that girls high school flag football was sanctioned in Colorado. So this was the first year, and actually this was the second game that I covered. They faced off earlier on in the season, and then this ended up being the last game, the 5A state championship, Mountain Vista versus Arvada West. I mean, we kind of knew that this was going to be the matchup. I know Legend gave Mountain Vista a little bit of a scare, as well as Ariana Akey giving us a little bit of a scare with a little injury in that game, and that was back then when well, the good old days where they played the semis and the state championship on the same day. So it was a very complicated thing. But, you know, we covered that game. We were there the whole day at Jeffco Stadium, and then the other one as well at the other semis. I know we covered, or half of us covered, Valor versus Arvada West, which wasn't really close. And then the other half covered Mountain Vista versus Legend, which was an epic game. And you could check out those, you know, summaries and breakdowns of those games from years ago if you really wanted to on the Playmaker's Corner. And then Arvada West and Mountain Vista would play, and we covered that one, that being the last game of the day there. And it was an instant classic. And it's been years, exactly 2, since I've watched that game. I have not watched that game in full until pretty much recently for this film breakdown, because in the moment, I mean, obviously we had the whole crew, so I was just kind of chilling, enjoying it. It was an absolute banger of a game, and you just got to see the stars of Colorado show out, and they showed out. We were able to get so many clips, and we posted them on our stories, and I mean, it was a back and forth game. Mountain Vista had the advantage, and then, you know, you had Arvada West, who were the defending state champs. You know, they won it during the second pilot year, the season before, and their veteran and leadership just showed out, you know, through that whole game as they scrapped back and they made this a real game and really battled, and you could see the emotion there. Unfortunately, they would fall short to Ariana Akey's Mountain Vista, but still a banger of a game. And after we posted all that stuff and all the coverage, you know, I gotta shout out the Sauer sisters and Ottawa. They went ahead and sent us a message saying, you know, that might have been one of the most impressive performances they've ever seen, you know, and so we gotta shout out them. They showed Colorado some love here. And so with all that being said, they're now in Nebraska. The 3 players that we talked about that starred in that game are now committed to Nebraska. Let's talk about what makes them great. Let's start with Saylor Swanson. So I have the most college film on her because Sarah Walker, and we'll talk about that later, did not get to play her freshman year, even though she was on the roster. And then obviously Ariana Akey was in high school this past season, so there's that. And so I have 3 college games from Saylor Swanson that I was able to look back at and really break down. And, for those of you at home, if you want to watch some of this film, Reinhardt Athletics, go ahead and look them up. They hosted Wingate, Ottawa, and Kaiser, and then those 3 teams all played each other. And so Saylor Swanson was the quarterback for Wingate University. That's was a new D2 school down in the Conference Carolinas, coached by our guy Joe Schlager over there. And, she headed up a team that was very talented. But these were their first couple games, technically listed as exhibition games for Wingate. But if you look at Ottawa, Kaiser, and Reinhardt's website, they're all games that are listed officially as games that they attributed to their official record. So I am counting those as games. I was also able to get stats from those as well. But, Saylor would start in these games. These were her first college starts here against Ottawa, the defending national champions, Kaiser, the runner-ups and a perennial powerhouse. And then you have Reinhardt, which, is a team that, in flux, right? But definitely a lot of talent over there. Their whole roster is made up of Georgia players. They are very deep as well. And so it's not like they don't have athletes over there either. And so this was not going to be easy, but if anything, this was going to show us what Saylor Swanson was made up of. And so I'm going to talk about this college breakdown first and just break down those 3 games. And then we'll go to the high school stats and, film and all that stuff as well as we approach the end. But you know what? Let's go ahead and start with the Reinhardt breakdown. I think that was the first team they played here. And this whole game really wasn't that close. On drive 1, they started near midfield, and Saylor Swanson finds fellow Colorado player Addie Cadwell from Ralston Valley right up the seam, and she was just wide open. Like, she lined up at center, ran a straight seam route, and the safeties were nowhere near her. Saylor Swanson, she sees it, like, wide open, throws it. A little underthrown, I will say that. I think it was one of those things where, like, you see a receiver so wide open, you can't believe it, and you really, really don't want to miss a touchdown opportunity. But she finds her and she scores, and they go ahead and go up 6-0 right off the bat. Like I said, not much of a read here. She was just wide open. And she made the throw. It was a touchdown. PAT was no good. Saylor kind of outran the rush here, tried to beat the defender to the edge, but they called her down. So 6-0 to start. On drive 2, still in the first quarter, they go ahead and get into the red zone thanks to a handoff on an end around here. But on first down, Saylor under pressure escapes and scrambles for a nice 5 or so yards, showing off her athleticism, flexing it just a little bit, showing she could get away. On the next play, under pressure by 2, she goes ahead and lets this one go deep here, trying to be decisive. And I think she wanted the corner route throw. She threw this ball fast enough where there was no way she could have looked at anywhere else, but the receiver definitely got jammed here at the end of her route, and this one was knocked away. So a little dangerous, but she was trying to anticipate this throw here, and it just ended up being well covered at the end. And so just trying to get the ball away in this position. She was rushed by 2. I don't know if she anticipated that. Maybe that's something to note here, but it is her first game, right? There are some things that you're going to miss as a freshman quarterback, but not the greatest decision. Ideally, you probably just take the sack here instead of throwing under pressure deep. Third down again, they rush 2. This time Saylor's ready for it. She outruns it by rolling right, and then lets it go to her outside receiver. But this one was just off the mark. It was the right decision and everything. But this ball was just inaccurate. So that's incomplete. It's now 4th down here. And on 4th and 14, Wingate, they decide to just run straight for verts. And so here we go. Saylor Swanson goes ahead, takes a snap, drops back and throws a beautiful back shoulder fade throw to Janelle Francis, who does a good job restacking this route, by the way, and gets that outside leverage. And ultimately, I mean, this ball, just perfect timing to it. It's high, it's up there, it gives Francis time to run underneath it, and when she turns around, the ball is there right before the defender could go ahead and even make a play on it. Ultimately, I mean, first off, a great play by Janelle Francis. Like I said, good job restacking here, getting leverage, and then going up and making the play. But this was just a beautiful ball by Saylor. I mean, high and up there, high and outside, on the money, on time as well. You know, Janelle Francis was able to show late hands and turn around and just make a great physical catch. And this was just one of those throws that, you know, when you have great chemistry or when you have a quarterback with great timing, you can't stop it. You can't. And the coverage wasn't bad. I mean, hand on hip and everything, but it's just one of those things where you have a great athlete, you have a quarterback with great timing. This is something that is impossible to stop. And so, beautiful throw. By the way, fourth down, beautiful throw here. Great accuracy and timing by Saylor to give her receivers a chance to go get it. They go up 12-0 off a beauty of a play from both players there. Now, on the PAT, and this is probably how outmatched Reinhardt was. There are multiple players open here, and so Saylor just picks one and throws to a wide open post here, a little high but still brought in, and so that goes ahead and makes it 14-0. Well, would have, but I guess there was a penalty, and so they run it back again. On this one, Saylor rolls left, kind of takes a shot into the end zone, but really, I mean, when you're rolling left, your passing choices are limited without throwing across your body. And so it was a little bit more of a throwaway than anything. And so I think if I'm going to nitpick here, don't do that, especially if there's one or two receivers on that side, and then knowing your athletic limitations as well. She didn't force anything, right? You're still up 12-0. You maintain that. You don't give them a chance to return anything, so you can't be mad at it. But if you're going to roll left, you got to have more than one receiver over there. She was obviously not open from the get-go. They had her pinned down in the back of the end zone. It is what it is. And so there you go. Like I said, nitpicking, I got to. Let's go ahead and go to drive 3 here. 1st and 20 past the midfield. At this point, I mean, you know, Reinhardt is teetering. A pass here, a score here would go ahead and pretty much knock them out. A pass or a score on the next two would pretty much knock them out, in my opinion. And she goes ahead and starts it with a beautiful comeback throw here. You know, once again, great timing, great accuracy. Her receiver goes ahead and brings this one in for a nice, almost 17-yard gain after the catch as well. Like I said, hard to guard when you're on time and accurate. Following that, she kind of hesitates, like on 3rd and 3, like she has a couple drag routes here and she hesitates and then just kind of takes the sack. I don't know if she saw, maybe, I think this is maybe what I saw. She saw a safety rolling down a little bit late, but if she just let it go, I mean, it would have been maybe a bigger collision than she intended, but you know, at least the receiver would have had a chance to go ahead and make a play on the ball. From what I could see, at least, it looked that way. But she hesitates, takes a sack here. That is tough. So now it's 4th and 16 here. Under pressure on 4th down, Saylor decides to check it down. Almost gets the first here, but is ultimately stopped short. And so, tough decision. I mean, this drive basically dies because Saylor takes a tough sack here. Like I said, young quarterback, first game, but against a team like that, I mean, and an opportunity to get into the red zone, you just got to pull the trigger, right? You did it on the comeback route. If you did it again earlier on one of those drag routes, it would have been there, and it just wasn't that time. So, unfortunately, could not go up 2 scores, but it doesn't matter as the defense holds strong, as they're still up by 2 as they enter drive 4 here. On drive 4, they start midfield here. Start with a couple check downs. Saylor runs a speed option, showing off a little bit of speed here as well. Does a nice little hard count that pulls the defense off sides. It is one of those where they pull the defense off sides and then they run a play. Very Aaron Rodgers-esque, but they didn't count it. Either way, I mean, still getting some free yards there. On 3rd and 7, though, this was a play that really stood out to me. Saylor, recognizing that it is man-to-man, finds Janelle Francis on a post, and this one's just wide open, on the money, accurate, and Francis does the rest, so she takes it to make it 18-0. Saylor then finds her crosser on a nice timing throw once more to make it 20-0 very early on. Now, this game would end up getting away from Reinhardt as Wingate would just pile on. The rain did pick up a little bit here, which resulted in Saylor running the ball a lot more in this game, and she was lethal on the ground, very opportunistic, didn't overdo it, right, still was looking to pass here, but they're able to go ahead and score again, I think before half or start of the third quarter to make it 28-0, nice short throw in the red zone on another great drive led by Saylor. But all things considered, against Reinhardt, a team that, like I said, has had struggles in the past, right, new head coach like every year, but nonetheless, they have athletes from Georgia. It's basically just a Georgia team over there who are good. She did a good job. Got in there. I think there were times she missed some details, right? Took a bad sack here and there. Some inaccurate throws to start. But, after that Janelle Francis touchdown throw, you could see her really settle into her timing, controlled the pace of the game. I thought she did a really good job holding it down right there. And that's a good win to get right away. I think technically her first career win, even if it is considered an exhibition just by Wingate. But love to see that to start. Now, the next two games are different. They play Ottawa, a national champion, and then Kaiser, a contender for that national championship. Let's go ahead and hop right into this one. Against Ottawa, she had 9 drives here, and so I documented what happened on each drive. Let's start on drive number 1. First, to start off, some nice checkdowns, really just feeling out this defense here. A lot of short throws, did not seem rushed here. They did get across midfield, but could not convert on a fourth down near the end of the red zone because of a dropped pass. And it was a great decision. Good throw by Saylor here, but just kind of an uncharacteristic drop pass. And so that's an unfortunate opportunity there I guess it would have been an opportunity for Wingate, but a drop pass kills that drive. There's not much more Saylor could do there. I think maybe she could have been a little bit more aggressive to start on this drive here. There might have been a deeper shot somewhere in that drive, but ultimately, you can't complain about getting across midfield and getting close to the red zone. So there you go. Second drive, though, Ottawa kind of giving Wingate a lot of space here as they run some concepts. Wingate runs some concepts that are designed for some bigger plays. A lot of pre-motion here in the backfield to go ahead and show what this defense is showing. And it is mostly man, I would say. But to start this drive, and really this second whole drive here, Saylor just plays it conservative, taking what's there, taking the short passes, but eventually it does lead into a third and long, and that's something that, ultimately comes up when you're playing game manager, right? Taking what's there. If a receiver doesn't get the yards, like the minimum 4 to 5 that they need, then you're going to find yourself in a third and long. And so here we go, third and long here. On this play, she's looking deep. You have a couple concepts here, but this is just very well covered by Ottawa, and she recognizes that. She just checks it down. It is what it is. Live to see another day, and they punt it. Now, on the third drive, it's pretty much the same thing as the first two here, but it is 0-0 at half. You got to credit the defense. They're playing very good football up to this point here, but offensively, it is Saylor that's running the ship here, and they are just playing it at a very conservative rate, not trying to turn it over, taking what's there. And for Coach Schlager as well, you're getting a feel for this Ottawa team, seeing what they do, seeing how they react to certain things. On that second and third drive, you definitely see him open up the playbook a little bit more, running a lot more stack, moving receivers around, trying to reveal if they're in man or zone here. And those things definitely come in handy here in the second half. And so let's talk about the fourth drive. Almost halfway there, 4 of her 9 drives she has in this game. It was very similar to the third one here, but third and long once more after some short passes. Saylor ends up throwing a nice ball on a curl route that's completed, and also fortunately draws a holding penalty. So that extends this drive. But that wasn't the end of the half. This was a drive that happened, I think with just seconds left here in the second quarter. So really 8 drives here because that fourth drive doesn't really count. I mean, it was at the end, so they're just being conservative there. And so there you go. It is what it is at that point. And sorry, I think I miswrote here. I think I said it was 0-0 going into the second half. I meant 0-0 going into the second. And then Ottawa would score a couple times here. So now they're down 13-0 by the time Saylor gets the ball here in the third quarter for her 5th drive. And so at this point, I mean, Wingate, they got to get going, right? They're now down by 2 scores. All this conservative passing and taking care of the football stuff. Yes, it has been productive. Yes, you've gotten close to the red zone, but not in it just yet. And you got to get in there to cook. And so here we go. 5th drive. Third down, really 4th drive, a third quarter here. Saylor rolls out left, makes a nice solid throw on the first play of the drive to pick up a first down. Following that, she makes an easy pass to Janelle Francis on the hitch route, who gets a lot of yards after the catch, and that puts them in the red zone for the first time. First red zone trip of the game here in the third quarter. Saylor then threads the needle on an outside curl to actually get them in the red zone. I think Francis was close, but this play would get them in the red zone. And so now first down in the red zone. Saylor recognizes the defense, throws the ball deep on the post, but this one is knocked away. Not a bad decision. It is just good coverage, so it's knocked away. But luckily, they do throw a penalty on this one here. So now it's 1st and 5 in the red zone. And on 1st and 5 here, Saylor just throws a beautiful throw here. I want to say to Addison Morgan on a out route, or I think it's an out route here. And, I mean, this is just one of those throws where it's man, the receiver gets leverage. Saylor delivers the ball that's just outside, but inside of the red zone, so that way she could toe tap this one in. Just a beautiful throw that's unguardable when you have great timing and accuracy, and that's what happened here. Also, I will say a nice scheme adjustment here. They stacked the receivers, and so basically one of those receivers ended up being more open than the other as the DBs had to switch. And like I said, just elite ball placement and timing that goes ahead and gets them on the board. On the PAT, Saylor tries to thread it to a receiver over the middle. This draws a lot of contact and a penalty here, and so they go for it again. Saylor tries to run this one in, but she stops short. So it stays at 13-6, but I think the big thing that matters is that they were able to get on the board and make it a 1-score game again. Now for a 6th drive, the defense stands tall, so still 13-6 here. On the first couple plays, Saylor just throwing short passes as they continue to give them a lot of space, and Wingate is taking that space. Eventually, she takes a shot on the quarter route deep here on, I think this has to be 4th down, and it's just not there. The Ottawa defense was ready for that one, and they covered that one very well and knocked that one away. And so now that brings up the 7th drive here. They get across midfield, but on 4th down, under pressure, Saylor outruns DJ Paris, who's a great rusher and linebacker, and then throws a great ball to Addie Cadwell to go ahead and put them in the red zone. This is a great play. Had to highlight this one right here. You know, she was dead to rights to DJ Paris on 4th down, and Saylor just outruns her and then just delivers an elite pass to Cadwell here, who goes in and does the rest to put them in the red zone for their 2nd red zone drive of the day. This is just one of those plays that a great quarterback makes when you need her to make. So there you go. Now, let's go ahead and fast forward a couple plays here on 3rd down in the red zone. Saylor shows off her mobility once more, freezing DJ Paris on a nice little juke and then getting some yards outside to make it a more manageable 4th and 6 here. And so 4th and 6 in the red zone, a chance to potentially tie the game, or at least cut into the lead even more. Saylor gets a snap, patient with it, throws another ball outside to a late window on the drag route here to Cadwell, who brings this one in on the money. I mean, this is just a tough throw to defend here. it's a simple drag route, but once you have that leverage and it's 1v1, because they were playing in man, it looked like, at least in this instance, it looked like it. Cadwell just brings it in. It's a great throw by Saylor, who squeezes this one into another tight window here to go ahead and cut into this lead. Now, that makes it 12-13 on the PAT, recognizing its man. Saylor rolls right before letting go of this ball here, but once again, just great coverage and man-to-man, so it stays a 1-point game. Now, Ottawa, they go ahead and score very late in the fourth. They make it 20, well, not very late. There's like 2-3 minutes left. But they go ahead and make it 20-12, taking that 8-point lead here. And so Wingate, and Saylor Swanson, they have a chance to go ahead and, score again and potentially tie this thing and make it interesting. Unfortunately, this drive starts with a false start, which is not good, but immediately Saylor gets that back with a long completion for a first. This was just a beautiful throw on time. I think it's on a comeback route to Janelle Francis, who, the ball's let go before she's even turned around. And when she turns around, the ball's there, and she's able to make something happen here to go ahead and get those yards back after the penalty and get this drive back on track. That's what you want to see out of a quarterback here, getting your offense back on track here and driving. Following that, she completes a nice throw to Cadwell, an easy throw. It's a hitch route, who goes ahead and makes a great play, just making a lot of players miss getting past midfield. Saylor goes back to Cadwell on another drag, just letting her eat, as she could tell she's hot here, and just feeding her the ball. She then makes a great throw here. I think it's over Jucani Washington of Ottawa. She's stuck in a zone in the flat. She knows she has a receiver behind her. There's a receiver in front of her. Jucani comes down, and once she comes down, Saylor just floats it right behind her to, I think it's number 4 for Wingate. Let me check that. Madeline Lumpkin. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Madeline Lumpkin that she goes ahead and floats this one too. Just great recognition. Does not rush this one at all. Lets Jucani take a receiver right in front of her so that she could get the other one, and she gets a decent amount of yards here. This is just one of those plays that, if you're a younger quarterback, you're feeling the pressure, you want to go, you want to stay on tempo. Saylor, she's playing at her own tempo. She's playing at Wingate's tempo right here. Let the DB make a decision, and then you make the easy throw. There you go. That extends this drive here and inches them closer to the red zone. But this next play would be a play that I'd be replaying a number of times here, because here's what happens. Looking for a shot into the red zone. Saylor gets a snap immediately under pressure by 2 people. Doesn't let that phase her. She lets this one go right away. Not looking at any other receiver. She lets this one go on time to the corner here, trying to find Addison Cadwell, who's running this corner route out of the center position, mind you. And she is doubled. There's a corner running. I don't know if Saylor recognized this, but there's definitely a corner that stays there where this ball should be because it's zone. And then it looks like, I want to say one of the linebackers or a defender picks up Cadwell in man. And so this is definitely double covered. But she's throwing this corner route here, and it wasn't a perfect ball because she could have lead her possibly a little bit more outside towards the sideline. But she does throw it well enough where she knows she needs to get it outside so that Cadwell could outrun the coverage and go ahead and make a play here. And that's exactly what she does. Cadwell goes ahead, gets in front of the DB, and brings in a great catch here, who goes ahead and makes the play on this one and scores for Wingate to make it 20-18. This is just anticipation. You knew that Saylor wanted this one, so maybe it's just, young quarterback wanting to go to a receiver that's hot, which is not a bad thing either, but with how quick she lets this one go, it allows this to be a bang-bang play instead of letting the corner sit and wait for this one here. And the corner who is covering that zone sees the ball. She takes a very aggressive angle at this ball and just messes up. because she bumps into the person that is covering Cadwell, and man, still though is able to flip her hips, but it's just does not have enough time to get her hands up to make a play on this one, as Cadwell brings this one in right in front of the DB and right before she steps out of bounds here for a big time touchdown. And just gotta shout out Addie Cadwell, because she goes ahead and takes on the extra contact to go ahead and make this play, but ultimately it is a good decision by Saylor to trust, first off, somebody you've played club ball with, and trust somebody that has been hot, this drive here to go make a play, right? In these moments when you're in the red zone, you have to be decisive. Ottawa, historically, has fed on young quarterbacks who are not decisive in the red zone. If you are not decisive in the red zone, you throw something late, anything late you throw is a pick. And Ottawa has fed off of that. When you are playing a great defense, you need to be decisive, sometimes more than right. And, you could call this lucky, but, it's still decent placement right here. If it was inside, it would have went to either of the defenders, so she still has to thread the needle. And this was just a nice play here by both the players to go ahead and make this one interesting. But they still got to go for two, and so let's talk about how that goes here. They decide to go for two. And once again, nothing crazy. It looks like a drag slant, something short, right? And Saylor just puts it on the money in front of the defender, in front of the receiver who's in front of the defender, and they go ahead and tie it up. That happens at 2:21 in this game here. And just like that, Wingate has Ottawa on the ropes, but Ottawa, they go ahead and score, and they also score with not a lot of time. There's less than a minute here, and so by the time Saylor Swanson and company takes the field, they only have time for two drives. The first one's a complete pass on a wheel route. They run the wheel route twice, and they're both incomplete, and then that's it. I don't know if they were going to be able to get anything more from there. Maybe you throw it and then you pitch it and stuff, but there's not really enough time to put together a scoring drive. And so looking at this Ottawa game here, right, you got 9 drives. You have 2 of them that don't really matter. So let's say 7 drives here, and all the scoring drives came in that second half. 2 of them were short passes, which were just Saylor threading the needle and man-to-man, right? The last one was a decisive decision to throw it to Cadwell and allow her to go make a play, which was great, right? And then you had a couple drives early on that just didn't really go anywhere. They weren't turnovers, which I think is ultimately a plus, right? You're taking care of the ball. You're allowing your defense to play the field positioning game, right? But, you're just not being aggressive enough. I think there are times where, there could have been some of that opportunity to really take Ottawa downfield after the first drive. The first drive, which is ultimately super conservative, right? You're feeling them out. You're trying to see how you could set them up. Second, third, and not fourth, but the second and third drive, I really, really felt like they could have gotten going there a little bit quicker, and they just didn't. Like I said, took care of the ball. They were trying to play conservative, give their defense a chance here, and ultimately, it wasn't the worst. They had their chance, just the defense did not stop them and give Saylor Swanson the ball back, unfortunately, to go make something happen and win this game. So you put your faith in your defense. It is what it is. I don't think that's a bad game plan at all here. But we're talking about Saylor Swanson. I think in the second half, though, she really came alive. There were some throws she made that, it's not like some of these short throws. I know I'm saying slants and drags, but it's not like these short throws were like super wide open and they have like 4 or 5 steps. No, it's like you have to thread the needle before they run out of bounds type thing. And she was throwing some dots out here. And so was very impressed by Saylor in this game. At the time, was super proud of her and whatnot. But, just breaking this down, there are some throws that were like, hey, you have to make a decision. And she made the right decisions to move them into the red zone consistently. She played at her own pace. Did not seem like she was getting rattled, even though that pressure of Sue and DJ, we know how good they are, right? They've won them multiple national championships. There were return for this game. And Saylor did a good job handling that and still getting the ball out, allowing her receivers to go make something happen. And, I mean, ultimately, what more can you ask for if you're a coach, right? Your quarterback came alive in that second half and made this a competitive game. But ultimately, I mean, it's the second game of the season, and you just played the national champs of women's college flag football. Can't be mad at it. Can't be mad at it. At the time, definitely something that you can work on. But then they played Kaiser, a team that, if I'm just being honest, I mean, we felt like their defense was worse than Ottawa's, as I think Ottawa just beat them, I want to say, earlier on in that day here. But Kaiser, I mean, they had significantly more offensive firepower, so the pressure to score is already up there. So, I mean, let's hop into this game. This game was definitely a different vibe, and you got to keep in mind, Wingate at this point beat up, tired. They're without a couple players. Sarah Walker was not playing in this game. They're without other players like Sophie Matthews, I don't think played in this game either. So you had players that were playing out of position, slightly out of position. It's not like they haven't played there before, but Saylor did play a decent amount at safety here. And did a decent job against, I mean, it's a high-powered offense in Kaiser, so what more can you do when you're already playing both sides and exhausted as one of the last games of the day here? But especially early season 2, not quite yet in mid-season form. So just keep all that in mind. But let's get to the analytics and, just really dive into this one here, and we'll talk about all of those factors later. Drive 1, already down 7-0. Couple handoffs here, some short throws on a swing route to really just get, your athletes in space and get them going. They end up finding themselves in a 4th and 1 situation in the first zone. And they go for it, which is super aggressive, but they go for it here. It's an open slant route. Saylor puts it on the money. This one is dropped. That's a turnover on downs. Yikes. Not a great way to get started because Kaiser starts in the red zone, then they go ahead and score and get the PAT. So by the time she gets the ball on drive 2, they're down 14-0. And then this is where they get cooking a little bit. So they go ahead and get started with a nice ball on the corner route here. Saylor just recognizes that this one's man, sees one of their corners getting turned around in man, and goes ahead and throws this ball, taking advantage of that lost corner for a big gain that gives them a 1st and 5 near midfield. Following that, though, it looks like on first down, Saylor tries to scramble, stumbles, so I guess was getting caught by the turf monster, and it ends up being a 1-yard sacker. So it doesn't derail the entire, drive, but definitely a missed opportunity because it looked like she had some room. Following that, though, a short throw, Saylor throws it short here, and then she takes the design quarterback run that gets them across midfield for a 1st and 19 as Wingate is rolling. Saylor, using her legs a little bit more here, goes ahead and runs that speed option going left, and then makes a nice pitch to Von Brussel, who gets a nice gain just using her speed, getting outside for a good couple yards, plus a holding penalty. So that goes ahead and moves them up even a little bit more there. Following that, Saylor, this was a play where I thought she did a good job, goes through all of her reads on first down and decides to check it down one more time as time runs out. So now it's 2nd and 8 past midfield going into the next quarter. Following that, Saylor buys some time going left, tries to throw it to Francis, I think, who is open, but this one is unfortunately overthrown, a rare miss here. On 3rd down under pressure, Saylor kind of leaning away from the rusher, just lets this one rip to the corner route here, but this is just not a good throw. It's easily intercepted, and on top of that, I don't think she recognized that the outside corner dropped into coverage instead of playing man because this was a smash concept, so she was assuming that corner would come down to the outside receiver, and then the corner route from the slot receiver would be open if she throws it, and, assuming to get leverage as well. But that corner drops all the way back with that slot receiver here instead of playing up, and so I mean, first off, it wasn't a good ball. She's under pressure. So this one goes pretty much directly towards that DB on top of just missing the open hitch route. because, that outside corner drops back far for a second there. That hitch route's wide open. It's like, I don't know, it's like, what is it? Third and 8 here. That would have been enough. I mean, I think it's Janelle Francis, I want to say, or one of their shiftier receivers in the slot. She would have made that an easy third and short, or I guess it would have been fourth and short, or gotten that first down and put them in the red zone. And so for Saylor to kind of just force this outside throw here and also misread the defense, I mean, you can't do two wrong things and expect it to go right. And so definitely a freshman mistake for sure, though. And so that's a tough turnover here. They don't get a good return, but Kaiser, it doesn't matter for them. They go ahead and score anyways. So now they're already down 21-0 by the time it's drive number 3. And so drive 3 here, try to put something together. Drive 2 ended with just a really bad decision here. Here's what happened. Some short throws gets them to a 3rd and 10 approaching midfield. A nice curl throw makes it 4th and 1 though. And then they decide to go aggressive here with the play call. They have Francis on the outside going deep. Cadwell at center running the seam here. And then all short routes, a lot of drag routes over the middle as they're near midfield. And so Saylor gets the snap here. The play develops. She decides to throw it deep to Francis, who's in one-on-one, and this one's an absolute dime. By the time the ball gets there, Francis is just able to get in front of her defender and get a step on there. The ball's there, the hands reach out for it, extend for it, but she's just not able to bring in this pass because she does end up falling through the contact of the ground here. Which is unfortunate because, I mean, it was great coverage, right? Great coverage by the DB to go step for step with Francis for most of the time, but Saylor just drops this one in the bucket, and it is dropped here, and so that's tough. Rewatching that play, it looks like maybe Cadwell was a lot more open, like she was steps ahead of her defender a lot faster than Francis was, so maybe that would have been an easier throw and catch solution or opportunity there. But I do kind of see I will say this, I do see the play recognition in Saylor because Ashley Clam is playing safety, right? What they're showing is a cover 1, Ashley playing over the middle. It's either cover 1 or cover 0, and Saylor's just assuming that Ashley's going to be back there. And so if Cadwell is running the seam route, she would basically be running right into Ashley and would be double covered there. And so Saylor's not even really looking at her. She's looking at this outside receiver who's in 1v1. Now, if Ashley shaded over and lined up more towards Francis, then maybe Cadwell would be the move here. What ended up happening is that it ended up being cover 0. Ashley actually drops down into the box and takes on a drag route instead of going with Cadwell, and so that's why Cadwell is more open here, and it looks like Saylor just misses her, but I get it. That is just a tough drive, though. I mean, to be fair, none of the short stuff was open. Like, they were playing these like drags and short routes very aggressively, so like it would have had to have been a contested catch. And so I do kind of like the shot here. It's 1v1, and I mean, it was on the money. It's just unfortunate that it's yet another drop on 4th down by a receiver that ends this drive. And so now that brings up drive 4 here. At this point, Kaiser scores another touchdown. They're up 28-0. You can see the exhaustion setting in. Saylor's also playing both ways. I see her. She makes a great diving deflection, but it looks like maybe she tweaked her hand. I can't tell if that's maybe the injury that put her out for the rest of the season. Spoiler alert, because this would be the last game she would play her freshman year here. But it did not look great at that moment. Either way, drive 4, Saylor gets the ball, couple nice throws, gets near midfield with a 2nd and 6, and then this is just a great play. Saylor just does a sensational, disappearing act here, buys a lot of time, finds a wide open Brusso near the right sideline that gets him across the midfield. It looked like that this Kaiser rush at her dead to rights, but once more Saylor making something happen out of nothing, and she goes ahead and keeps this drive going by finding Brussel. They go ahead and following that, they go ahead and run a wheel route here, and Saylor tries to throw that one deep, but this one is just a little bit too far. I mean, it's out of bounds. It's also double covered, so it's incomplete there. Fast forward a play here. Saylor goes deep, but it's well covered. Do get bailed out, though, with a PI call, so that now makes it 3rd and 5. Following that opportunity, Saylor rolls right. Throws a dangerous pass across her body, which is almost picked. And I mean, right here, she had open receivers, so I don't know why she was going across her body. I think at this point, you could see the impatience settling in a little bit. You're getting blasted 28-0. You're looking to go score, and so she's doing a little bit too much, so she has to come back down to earth right here. It looks like she's a little rattled and needs to settle down here, and so that's what she does. And so she settles down, gets a snap on the next play, and throws a beauty of a long corner route to Von Brussel right before Ashley Clam could get there. This was just a perfect throw here, just beating out the man defender, and then Clam, who was also there, to go ahead and get on the board and make it 28-6 with about 28 seconds left in the second quarter. On the PAT, it is once again another good throw, but yet another drop by a receiver, so it stays right there. So nice play here by Saylor to go ahead and recognize the defense and be decisive and let this one go before Ashley Clam, who is an all PMC DB pretty much since she's got into the college football ranks, got there. So love seeing that. That's a good play. Drive 5, I mean, like I said, game blown out, just trying to put together some good things here. Saylor does a good job extending plays, and getting them a first down here. There is a dropped pitch, though, on 2nd and 10, which makes it very, very difficult here because it was 2nd and 10 near midfield. The drop pitch now makes it 3rd and long. Under pressure here, Saylor is forced to check this one out, and then they have to punt because they're too far away. So, yet again, another tough drop here that ends up costing them a drive. Drive 6, defense allows yet another score, so now it's a 4-score game again here. First down, I mean, Saylor goes ahead and gets the first, scrambles for a couple yards, pitches it out here to make it 3rd and 6. She then, on 3rd down, finds an open player in the flats, but sees the corner playing off and gambles by coming back to Cadwell, her center, and throws it to Cadwell, threading the needle, by the way, here, who has... I mean, she's just deeper and has some leverage on her defender than the original open player that she sees here. And she just rips a beautiful throw under pressure over the middle for a nice gain here. That gets him across midfield. Cadwell is spinning, and then she pitches it backwards directly to a Kaiser defender, which is very uncharacteristic of her. And pretty much that mistake sums up this whole game here. You know, this was just a great play by Saylor. Sees an open receiver, but comes back to a player that could maybe get her a little bit more yards, delivers a great ball here, and it ends up being a turnover still. So that's tough. Drive 7, Janelle Francis starts out there. It's not really Saylor's drive. They don't get anything. And then on drive 8, Saylor's in at quarterback, Francis back in. But other than a nice little nasty juke on the rusher and some rushing yards, she ends up needing this one out because there's not a lot of time. So ultimately, looking at this whole game here, you had 7 real drives, really 6 real drives because Janelle Francis started one and then dropped the snap, and then Saylor tried to get them back but could not do anything about that. So let's say 6 real drives. Let's evaluate those 6 real drives. 4 of those drives were not Saylor's fault. You had 2, I want to say. Wide receiver drops on 4th down. Saylor made a good throw. The ball hit their hands. It was dropped, right? Not even really contested like that. It was just dropped. And that's how the drive ends. That's tough. You had another drive where, Saylor, they're running the option. She pitches it out right, and it's just a drop pitch. That would have made that a more manageable, 3rd down situation. Instead, it's 3rd and long because she also drops the pitch. So there you go. And then you have a drive where Saylor starts up by doing just a little bit too much, and then comes back down to earth and throws a beauty of a ball in a corner out here to go ahead and score. So, with all that being said, you had 4 plays that were just kind of out of her hands, two were drop passes. You have a drop pitch, and then my bad. You have that one where she completed the pass to Cadwell, and then she pitched it at a Kaiser defender who basically picks that one off. So four plays where I don't know what more Saylor could have done to extend those drives there. But if those drives are extended, I mean, whenever she's got into the red zone, she's scored. So you got to keep that in mind, right? And so for them to not be able to score on those drives because they were not able to get into the red zone, that's tough. That is the majority of the drives you have. That's 4 of your 6. Now, I will say, on drive 2, they had another opportunity to get into the red zone, and this was maybe the only real red flag that Saylor had from the day, or the 2 days that they're there against Reinhardt, Ottawa, and Kaiser. I mean, this was a forced decision, a bad ball, and then you also didn't recognize the defense, and it was just a missed recognition right here. So, probably the worst thing that happened. But even then, I mean, she got back on track. She led some decent drives. She scored as well. It was a great throw on that score. I mean, all things considered, you have 4 that were out of your hands, 2 that were in your hands, and then you're 1-on-1 on those decisions, 1 good, 1 bad. Not too bad against a team like Kaiser who has a lot of talent, but ultimately, I mean, if you can't match them offensively, then it's going to be a long day. That's just how they play. So there you go there. So broken down those 3 games, these were the key notes that I was able to gather. On top of, I mean, I think this is a good time to talk about some of the production she did in high school here as well. And yeah, actually, let's do that, and then I'll get to my main notes at the end about Saylor's game. Out of high school, in case you didn't know, she only played 1 year of high school flag football because they sanctioned it her senior year, thankfully, and she put up some great numbers. Was a multi-sport athlete, basketball, tennis, did all the things, great student as well here. In her 1 year of flag football, I mean, officially, she played in 19 games, got to the state championship, 4,953 passing yards, 81 passing touchdowns, 12 picks, also 958 rushing yards, and 12 rushing touchdowns to go with that. Defensively, 18 flag pulls, had an interception, pass deflection as well, as she did play a little bit of DB there, and she was just super productive. Currently, I have the Colorado Girls High School Flag Football record book that we were able to put together. I mean, she's up there in passing yards in a career at 8th, playing only 1 year. I mean, there are other people who have played 2, but she's on here for now. She has the most passing yards in a season by far with 4,953. Maddie Smolin got close this year with 4,600. Ariana Akey, who we'll talk about later, got close with 4,500, but even then, still in front of her. Passing touchdowns in a career, she's up there because she had 81, sitting at 8th. Passing touchdowns in a season, she's currently sitting at 3rd, second only to Ariana Akey, who is on here twice. I mean, she has decorated the record book here and has had a great season in high school. During the pilot program, started as a sophomore, made it to state, lost a tough one at state to Chatfield, bounced back, blew out Cherry Creek on the way to an undefeated season, and then would go ahead and hop into this last year, her senior year, and put up the stats that I just explained. And so she has been a very successful quarterback here in Colorado. The numbers back that up here. Now, with all that being said, got to watch her college film. I just broke it down right there. Got to watch her basically play 3 years of high school flag football here, and obviously during this time I've covered women's college flag football that entire time and done film breakdowns. This is the understanding that I got of Saylor Swanson as a player. Right now, by the way, committed to the University of Nebraska, listed here, and I think it's interesting. Listed first as a quarterback, wide receiver, and then DB. And I say it's interesting because there are some other players who are, Anna Anderson, she played for Ottawa, listed as a wide receiver, DB, QB. So I'm not going to look too deep into that, but definitely something to keep in mind as she is listed as a quarterback first here. Let's talk about the things that I think make Saylor elite, that makes her a good player, that makes her a player that not only succeeded in high school, but in the 3-game sample that we had from her freshman year, which, by the way, played those 3 games, hurt something in her hand, basically the season only lasted a month or 2 after that, was shut down for the rest of the season here. So I believe if she only played those 3 games and those were exhibition games, she should have 4 years of eligibility, if not 3 at the very least, I want to say. She could have also medically redshirted 2, so that would have been 4 as well. So she has her eligibility years, which is great here. And it's good because I think she's going to be able to put up numbers for a very, very long time here. So starting with the good things, I think the thing that really separates her from quarterbacks in the country, college quarterbacks, high school quarterbacks, is her understanding, game awareness, and just overall processing ability. In my opinion, at this young age, I think it's elite. And I've always kind of thought that way. I remember watching her as a sophomore, and, the mechanics weren't great. They're a little shot putty, right? And there are some things that definitely could have been improved there for sure. But one thing that you could definitely tell is that she understood the game. You watch her read a defense and make certain decisions and throws, you can tell that she knows why a defense is there. She knows why we're running a concept against that defense, and she just reads them like a book and pick them apart. She knows where to attack, especially if she's seen the defense before. She'll be patient with it, surgical with it. And I think with that understanding and that confidence in her IQ, game awareness, and ability, it really just feels like she never feels rushed. And honestly has just shown the ability to be surgical in her processing. There are some games that I've seen her play in high school, even in that Ottawa game in that second half, where it's like, man, she's in that mode right now. She's surgical with it. And you can tell not only by the crisp passes and good decisions, but by the way she's able to control the pace of the game by doing these things at such a high level. It's very easy for her to stay calm, cool, collected, and not get rattled when she knows what's about to happen next. And that is something that is absolutely scary. She's an absolute student of the game. Every year she's gotten smarter. Even when you look at this Wingate offense, there's a lot of moving parts. There's players you got to put in motion. There's different things that you're trying to attack and read here. Schlager, he's a guy that has, he's coached and ran some high-leveled, high-powered offenses in his young career. And so for Saylor to come in and pick that up, and really it felt like she had such good control of that system, is definitely saying something, especially when you consider that, they were down a Sara Walker, a receiver who, was a projected starter, somebody that has been her number 1 receiver for the last couple years, and now you go to the college level and she's not. There's definitely an adjustment period to that. But for her to run this Wingate system pretty flawlessly against Ottawa and Kaiser, who ended up going to the national championship, Ottawa, who legends within themselves, right? Current national champions. That is not easy to do. And so for her to hop into those games and to, operate that offense, not feel rushed, feel pretty comfortable is definitely a good thing. And honestly, I could say this, in all my years that I've watched Saylor Swanson play football, you are not going to rush her. You are not going to get in her head. She's very calm, cool, and collected. There's only maybe one time that, I could point at that I was like, it got away from the emotions, got a little bit, they got a little bit too high for a second there. It was in that state championship game against Mountain Vista, and I'm sure she remembers this. She was playing on defense. It was only like the second quarter. Maybe they were down by 2 scores at this point, but it was like a check down. She like gets on this receiver, rides it down. She's like trying to pull up this receiver, but the flag is just not coming off here, and so she ends up kind of shoving her, and then there's a whole thing, and you see the teammates come over and have her calm down, and to her credit, she does, because she ends up leading a couple touchdown drives, gets an interception to seal that half, and she's definitely way more like zen. But that was maybe the one point that I was like, oh, that's uncharacteristic. But that's because she's so competitive. And all these players, they're obviously going to be competitive, but it does reach a point for some players, and that's human. And so for that to be like maybe the one time that I could point to where I felt like she was a little bit rattled and not playing within herself, out of like 4 years that I've covered her, is saying a lot. She's definitely somebody that always feels control, that, like I said, is a good enough student of the game where there's not going to be much that surprises her. Now, that doesn't mean she's going to be perfect. She made that bad decision against Kaiser where, she kind of just anticipated that, that DB was going to, stick with that hitch route in that smash concept and try to throw that corner. But even then, it wasn't a good corner throw. Maybe she could have fit it in if she really squeezed it towards the sideline away from that DB and made that receiver run that corner a little bit flatter. But, you can't always be perfect, and I think those are things that she learned from, and she did learn from that as she led some good drives after that, in my opinion. And so I think her mind, just her processing ability, is top tier, especially when you consider that she's a good enough athlete where she can just scramble and consistently bail her out of situations that, allow her to maybe not process as far and just be decisive and whatnot, and just get the ball out quick. She could do that, but I think she does a really good job of saving the rushing ability, using the arm, distributing the ball, getting other receivers involved, which is always a good thing because you keep that you keep those good vibes going and you keep everybody ready to make the next play. Right? And so that is what I love about Saylor's game. Just calm, cool, collected, and she's that because she's smart. So there you go. Another thing that really separates her from other quarterbacks is just her timing and accuracy. She just has such a natural, clock in her head and throws these balls on time, and these throws are very accurate as well. She's really worked on that as she's gotten stronger and improved her athleticism. She's been able to fit some tight throws into some very tight windows, throw in her natural ability to just throw on time. That's huge. There's some quarterbacks that struggle with that timing aspect, and that does affect, how they could layer some throws and make some tougher throws that, may not look open yet, but will be because of the timing of these throws and because of the IQ that a player has to anticipate that. And this was shown in her red zone efficiency versus Ottawa and Kaiser, which was incredible compared to other quarterbacks who have competed against those teams. Versus Ottawa and Kaiser, I think, if I'm not mistaken, every time she got into the red zone, she scored. Actually, I want to say against Kaiser, maybe she did not get into the red zone. That corner throw, she might have been on the edge. But against Ottawa, she scored. And that's not an easy defense to score against. You got to be super on top of that. And, she did it 3 times in the second half, too. So it wasn't like she caught them off guard. No, they were settled in, and she still found a way to get it done. And so you don't do that without having good accuracy and timing, and that was definitely showcased in that Ottawa game here. Thirdly, her scrambling ability. I don't want to say she's sneaky athletic, but she could be a little bit tricky to bring down. Doesn't really use her rushing ability a whole lot. She's not one that's going to have 10 to 15 carries a game, but she's going to run what she needs. She's going to take those yards. She's going to extend drives. She's going to do what she needs to do. Now, if you're a defense, you cannot afford to discount her rushing ability. Even though she doesn't use it a whole lot, give her the opportunity and she's going to take it though. So, she's smart enough to be crafty, see these creases in defenses and, take those opportunities because she knows down the line, hey, if I'm rolling out and a DB is not coming up to me, then I'm just going to take those yards. Now, if they do come up to me, I'm just going to throw it behind them. They have to make a choice. And so being a rushing threat does matter. She could definitely run a little bit here, and that does show with her being on defense as well, which leads me to my second point, versatility. I think she has showed some great promise at DB. Maybe not the most elite defender yet here, but like I said, she has that IQ and ability to hop on a field and know what's going on. She could direct a defense for somebody, and she has an understanding of the game that does put her a level above other people, and so that allows her to be in the right spot at the right time a lot of the time. And she's played a lot of safety, right? So that allows her to kind of just range and roam and do her thing there. And she has erased a lot of mistakes back over there at safety. Even, just watching her in this Kaiser game, there's one deep pass I saw where, the receiver beats her because she's more athletic, but Saylor goes all out, lays out, and gets a hand on it and prevents a big play from happening, and that was massive, right? Now, I think in red zone, if you were to play her at safety, things could get a little bit tricky. There are times where, she just did not really have the wheels to be out there. But, of course, it is Ottawa and Kaiser we're talking about. They have top-tier athletes, so, take that how you want it. But I think she can be a good defender, a good DB to add to your secondary if you want as well. Because, like I said, that understanding of the game, that not only translates to the offensive side, but the defensive side. Now, let's talk about some things she could work on, maybe some weaknesses here, if you want to call it that. I think there are times she can be too passive and will not take advantage of using her legs enough. Saylor, in my opinion, has always naturally been a game manager, right? I think when you look at the spectrum of quarterbacks, you could either be on the game manager side or the gunslinger side when it comes to attitude and controlling the pace and stuff like that, right? Saylor, in my opinion, has always been game manager because, she's not going to be rushed. She's going to take what's there, and she's okay with taking what's there because she knows that it's inevitable that she's going to score, right? And I think there are times because you lean a little bit more game manager in your personality as a quarterback, that means she's going to protect the ball and she's not going to be as aggressive as you want her at times. And look, this could be real nitpicky, but, there are only a certain amount of drives in a game, right? And luckily for her, she's going to Nebraska where you have some great coaches who recruit extremely well. So it's not like she's going to be in short supply of weapons. But when it comes down to a quarterback competition, which it's looking like it's for sure going to come down to in Nebraska, what's going to separate you from others is knowing exactly when to be aggressive and push the pace and not waste drives. And like I said, it could be nitpicky here, and I think that comes with more maturity, learning the game, knowing your receivers, knowing opposing defenses and other teams and what they want to do here. But I do think because she's a little bit more on that game manager side of things, she's going to protect the ball. That's great. A great defense, they're going to love that because you know that your offense isn't going to put you in a bad spot. Love that, right? But there are times where I just think she just doesn't do enough fast enough, like early enough in the game. Looking back at the state championship game, I feel like the slow start they had really hurt them. Now, it wasn't because they weren't being aggressive. I think they were. They took a couple too many deep shots than they probably wanted to. But, you just can't start a game slow. Right, and I think that's something maybe she's a little bit more prone to when she's not on it, and it's something that I know she's going to work on. So there you go. Now, athletically, this is really the only other thing that I had to say. Athletically, I don't think she's as strong as some other quarterbacks naturally, and that's not the biggest deal. I think the mechanics are there. They're great. But she just needs to continue to add on some muscle, continue to get stronger, be in that college offseason program, and commit herself to that because I do think the stronger she gets, the tougher throws she could make here, that does change the whole timing of the game. I feel like when she's under pressure, she feels like she cannot hold on to the ball for as long as somebody like I mean, we're going to talk about her here. Somebody like an Ariana Akey, or somebody who is just naturally stronger because she needs to anticipate and throw the ball, knowing her arm won't get the ball there right away. Against Kaiser, there was a play where she was kind of running around and she maybe could have waited an extra second here, but she had to anticipate this throw to her check down, or it just wasn't going to be there, and she took it, and it was what it was, right? And so I think as she gets stronger, as she learns to throw from different difficult positions and gets more comfortable at making those type of plays, the entire game is just going to open up for her and allow her to truly attack anywhere on the field. And granted, I mean, she's only a freshman. She's going to get stronger. She's going to get better. They don't even really compete until 2028, right? So there's going to be plenty of time for her to do that. But it is, it's noticeable, right? I mean, she throws on the money. She's accurate. That's great. But there are some throws that athletic quarterbacks could make that are just way out there, and that could change a game on the dime and change the paradigm of things, right? And so for her, I think I would love to continue to see her to get stronger, work on that core, work on those back muscles, those arms, right? Continue to just progress as an athlete here, because, I mean, she doesn't have to have a Patrick Mahomes cannon, but shoot, it always helps to get closer to that than not, right? And so really that is the only thing that I could nitpick at. Defensively, I mean, I could also say this. I would like to see her get, just a little bit, more refined as a DB, specifically in man. I think as a safety, I know she could play in zone, but in man, would love to see her get a little bit more refined there. That means better footwork, faster out of breaks, all that great stuff, a little bit more explosive, working on that acceleration as well. But truthfully, I do think she could play quarterback on the D1 Power 4 level. Now, here's the thing. It's going to be a quarterback battle for Nebraska. In past years, I mean, you could see this in the Sara sisters and the quarterbacks they've taken on. They've usually went with quarterbacks who are more dual threat-like, who have a strong arm and could run around and could, bail them out of certain situations. That has been their preference. And they have recruited another quarterback who we're going to talk about on this episode who does exactly that, maybe the best out of anybody in the country. And so that's where things get interesting, because I think Saylor can also do those things. She could run around, she could make some passes, but I do think she brings something to this roster where if you need somebody to make a tough, just pinpoint throw on the money, that's your quarterback. She's going to be able to get everyone the ball. She's going to be able to feed everyone. She's going to be able to do all the things, right? That is your quarterback. But, there's going to be some competition. Obviously, you have Ariana Akey, who we're going to talk about later. You have Anna Anderson, who played quarterback for them, who we're going to talk about later. And then who knows if they go ahead and recruit more quarterbacks, since they have one more full year of recruiting still. And so that's where things get interesting. Now, the way I see Saylor Swanson, here's the comparison I have for her. I've always thought she felt like Joe Burrow to me. She is a quarterback who is calm, is cool, collected, who is never rattled. Even when you, I don't know, if you really want to look at her interacting with the media, she's always been super chill, calm, cool, collected. A lot of the same type of persona there. And then on the field, right? I mean, fiery competitor, no doubt about it, but not afraid to look at a defense and a blitzing defense and go be surgical with it and take them apart if they're going to blitz you and play in man, right? That's where she thrives. That's where he thrives. But also athletic enough to run around and make some plays happen as well. And so I've always felt like Joe Burrow, from a personality, from a stylistic standpoint, is who Saylor Swanson is as a quarterback. I thought that has always fit well. Now, I will say this, shout out my guy Gino, because I think he always brings this up because he's a Packers fan. But I think Saylor in one interview said that she would compare her game to Aaron Rodgers, or she sees a lot of Aaron Rodgers in her game or something like that. The more I look at Saylor play as she develops and plays better competition, the more I see that Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, maybe not the biggest quarterback, with like the biggest frame and whatnot, but he could sling it well, super smart, could throw it from different angles, controls the pace of the game. I mean, I feel like there's the whole media thing about him just being like a bad teammate, which I don't think Saylor is at all, or just being a very passive-aggressive teammate. But I think as far as personality goes, when he's on the field, I mean, he is confident enough that he knows the defense well enough, and he knows what's about to happen next, that he's not freaked out. And that's something that I see a lot in Saylor as well. She knows that she has so much IQ and control of this game that there's no reason to be freaked out when she knows what's about to happen. And, with some of the throws that Aaron Rodgers can make in tight windows, the timing, the throws on the run especially as well, saw a lot of that in that Kaiser-Ottawa game too, I see a little bit of Aaron Rodgers now. I think she needs to get stronger. I think the arm talent isn't quite the same from a flick of the wrist standpoint. But I see the Aaron Rodgers, and so I got to give her credit there. Now, I want to give her a women's college flag football comparison as well. I think I see a lot of Shahira Arvada in her game too. Personality very similar, but play style-wise, you see a lot of similarities. Her ability to throw on the money, to throw on time, to make accurate throws, to be a throw-first quarterback. Can run. Shahira Arvada can run here, and she did, but ultimately she's going to break down a defense, and she's going to figure out where she needs to get the ball to and who to take advantage of defensively in that scenario. And so I see a lot of a very young Shahira Arvada in Saylor Swanson. And once again, like I said, I think Shahira Arvada is still a better athlete. But to be fair, that is comparing a freshman player to a senior quarterback who's also about to be an Olympian for her country in Team Japan, right? And so, all that being said, though, you got to kind of adjust the focus a little bit. But you could kind of see the projection from there, though. You could see her project into a Shahira Arvada type who, is a rhythm passer, who throws it on the money, who is going to break down a defense, but could still freestyle when things go bad and go make something happen. And so those are the comparisons I have for Saylor Swanson here. And, I think she is just such a good quarterback, and, playing Ottawa and being able to, take apart a defense like that and score 3 times and make it a close game, that definitely got the attention of the Sara sisters if it didn't before. And so I love that she succeeded there. And now she's going to Nebraska. And that is going to be interesting for her. We could talk a little bit about her outlook there. I mean, there's going to be a quarterback battle. And they know what she brings to the program. She brings IQ. She brings, the calm, collected coolness that you want in your quarterback when it comes to tough situations. She will get you out of a bind and will either lead you in a comeback type of situation, or, when you need her to go make plays and ice the game, she will ice it. Right? That's what she brings to the table, as well as all the other things I've been talking about. Now, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I feel like the Sara sisters have always went towards the quarterback who is a little bit more of a dual threat, right? A little bit more of a rushing threat. So that could get interesting. But I'm just going to say, if Nebraska is not it, she could definitely start for a lot of other Power 4 teams, D1 teams that come out. I will say this. I know the Big 12 is going to be starting flag football here soon. I think they said 6 teams is what they're planning on here by 2028 or whatever. I mean, I think Saylor Swanson's a good enough quarterback to go play at one of those schools. And one of those schools, I will just say, does happen to be the University of Colorado in the Big 12. So maybe there is a homecoming in the books. We will see. But for now, she's at Nebraska. She's going to do her thing there. And I think they're getting somebody who is going to set the bar when it comes to this quarterback competition first and foremost. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that all turns out. But, she's a great player. She's a great quarterback. I think a lot of other teams would love to have her. A lot of other teams should throw the checkbook at her as far as scholarships and NIL goes, because I think she is going to be a quarterback that is going to lead the way here in the future and be just one of the true legends of this game. And like I said, a little biased, but I told you all the reasons why I think she's going to be great. These are things that she did against top tier defenses full of players who are national champions, who are potential Olympians, who have had a lot of success in the past. I mean, Ottawa and Kaiser, that's as top tier as it gets, right? So you got to respect that. If you don't believe me, look at the film. The film never lies. But there you go there. That's Saylor Swanson, originally out of Arvada, Colorado, formerly at Wingate University, but now at the University of Nebraska. All right, now we're going to talk about one of her teammates here. Through high school, through college, it is Sara Walker, the 6-foot wide receiver DB out of Arvada, went to Arvada West, played, well, not technically, but signed with Wingate, and then unfortunately suffered what ended up being a season-ending lower body injury that put her out the rest of the season. But even then, she was still offered and signed by Nebraska here, one of their first signees. And look, the Saylor Swanson film breakdown was super long because I really wanted to get into those 3 college games. I think that is proven tape, and I really wanted to emphasize this. These next 2 breakdowns won't be as long because I'm going off of high school film mostly here, and you know, I mean, that could be relative, right? Even though they're playing against some great competition. But Sara Walker, I mean, she also plays for Lace Up Jr. Got to shout out Rio and Lacey and all them over there, because I don't think I did with Saylor Swanson here. And Sara, I mean, she's a beast, you know, plain and simple. She is a force of nature. Let's go ahead and look at the stats she was able to put in the one sanctioned, I should say, season of girls flag football. Obviously dominated throughout the pilot program years, won a state championship as well. And I mean, she was always a force of nature. She was someone that stood out right away just because of how dominant she was. But looking at her, let's look at her offensive stats first here. Looking at her offensive stats, 142 receptions, and I believe if I am, let me check the games here. I want to say that's 19 games. Yep, 142 receptions in 19 games, 1,632 receiving yards, and 31 receiving touchdowns in her 1 year, where they did end up going to state, playing Mountain Vista, and then defensively playing safety, 41 flag pulls, 8 interceptions, and 7 pass deflections in her senior year. As far as records go, looking at the Colorado record book here, I believe she currently has, she's up there in receiving yards in a season, tied at 4th with her teammate, Molly Shellpepper, who's doing her thing over at Eastern. And then I think receiving touchdowns in a season, currently sitting at top 5 with 31 in her senior year. So obviously super productive, but let's go ahead and talk about what makes her super productive, what makes her a force of nature, somebody that stands out here. Because you can look up her highlights, and I think it'll be really obvious to see what makes her so dominant. But listed at 6 foot, which, you know, I mean, if I stood next to her, I could definitely verify. I want to say Wingate listed her at 5'11", which was interesting to me. But listed at 6 foot, I mean, she has a frame blended with athleticism that just makes her one of those special prospects that you won't find commonly on the flag football level. At least in this point in time, as far as girls flag football is being developed, and you know, there are club circuits going on, and a couple more states have went ahead and sanctioned it. I think we're up to 20, over 20 right now. Right now, you're just not going to find many 6-foot receivers like her, but even then, you're not going to find many 6-foot receivers like her that can move and has the speed and just overall athleticism that she has. The blend of frame, the blend of strength, the blend of speed just makes her somebody that's really easy to get the ball to. And let's dive deeper into that just a little bit more. Talking about her play strength, I think that's one of the things that really separates her from other people. She plays with incredible strength. And in flag football, a game that is more finesse and whatnot, you may be wondering, why is that important? Here's why it's important. She's a physical receiver. When you need a physical play, as in a play that's through coverage, that's a jump ball thing, that's a deep ball, red zone look type deal, that's not going to be maybe the cleanest look as a quarterback, she will overpower people and go make plays. She is somebody that doesn't shy away from contact, and she's going to force you to play her physical. You cannot play her passively. It is impossible to do that, or she is going to overpower you, so you got to get the jump on her. And so, really, she's going to play through contact, she's going to play through petty holds, and, that play strength is just different. That also applies to her hand strength as well. If you are not in the mindset of actively attacking her hands and being physical, she will rip the ball away from you, even if you're somewhat ready. And that's just something that separates her from other receivers. Extremely strong player. She's a lean athlete, but you could definitely see the power in her frame, and her frame is something that just separates her from other people. She is somebody that, is not going to be held down, that is going to go make big plays when you need him, because she is just that much more powerful than you, and that matters. Now, the other thing that matches with that really makes her dangerous is her speed. I think straight line speed wise, she has these long, strong strides, and in one-on-one, it is very difficult to stay on pace with her. I wouldn't say she's exactly a burner, but for somebody at her frame to be moving that fast is definitely not fair at all. Throwing the agility as well, I wouldn't say it's top tier or anything like that yet, but for somebody at that frame, you're not going to find many receivers that move like that. Maybe Ashley Clam, and that's probably it, but even then she's taller than Ashley, so there's that as well. And then this is the thing that we've been talking about, just her straight physicals, right? Speed, strength, frame, those are all things that separate, D1 players from D2 players. But the thing that separates D1, FCS players from D1 Power 4 players like she is here in Nebraska are things like a catch radius. And her catch radius and her ball skills are elite. The ability for her to go up and play top shelf football is something that you cannot find commonly right now as far as girls and women's flag football goes. If given the opportunity to post up and jump for a one-on-one ball, she will most likely come down with the ball. Not even 50-50, I think it's definitely the majority, at least 80-20. At least. She has shown the ability to make plenty of low catches as well and catch through traffic. She has the ability to make some truly crazy catches. I think there's one catch I saw she made at an NFL championship game where it's like a one-handed catch, but she's reaching behind her to make this. And so to have the flexibility, the strength, the ball skills, to just have the catch radius of a million feet, it feels like, separates you from other players. If you need a catch, she's going to get you one. If you need a touchdown, she's going to get you one. If it's a jump ball situation, like a Hail Mary type deal on defense, she'll go get you a pick or at least knock it away, right? The athleticism and then just that catch radius and those ball skills just separate her from other receivers. And there's another clip I'm thinking of where it's like a Team USA thing and it's just a straight fade route and she basically jumps over the corner and head tops her for this crazy catch. And at the moment, let's be honest, how many 6-foot corners in girls flag football do you know? There's not many. Kennedy Foster, I think, is 5'11", but, doesn't play college football anymore. Ashley Clam currently doesn't play college flag at this moment I'm recording this, or is with the roster right now, but, she could join one. She is more of a safety. That would be an interesting matchup for sure, though, but I don't know. There's just simply, maybe the next tallest corner is 5'10". She still has 2 inches on her. and then she could probably still outjump her. And so she is just a walking mismatch here. She is a freak of nature. I don't want to say the Victor Wembanyama of women's flag football, but when it comes to receivers, she is somebody that is extremely difficult to guard. The blend of power, the blend of speed, it is what it is when you're out there with her. You have to double team her. You have to be physical with her. I think if you could jam her at the line and throw off the timing, that'd be great. And then, like I said, physical. That means a lot of pulling, a lot of, things that you can maybe get away with without the ref seeing. That's just what you have to do when you play physical receivers like her, right? And she's going to force you to do that, because if you don't, she's going to make a highlight out of you. That's what it is. And, if you don't believe me, look at the film. It's there. She's competed against some great competition. There's a reason why, even with the season-ending injury, she was still offered a scholarship and a roster spot on this University of Nebraska squad. On top of that, you got to remember they play in 2 years, so she's going to have an extra year of rehab and really getting ramped up and back up to speed here. So I'm really not super concerned about that. Now, let's talk about some things she could definitely work on here. Like I said, recovering from an injury here, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But even then, I felt like she probably wasn't the most agile player. I mean, she has this nice spin move, right? So after the catch, she could definitely make some things happen. Obviously, she's fast, so there's that as well. But would definitely love to see her work on her footwork a little bit more. This is more so of a route running thing rather than I want to see her juke people out type of deal. I think as a route runner, maybe not always the most crisp route runner. I think there are times where she kind of rounds out her routes, and so would love to really see her focus on, that stop and go ability, the acceleration aspect as well, especially, those first 5 yards. That definitely matters. Acceleration, deceleration. I think her being more explosive out of her cuts would go a long way as well too. These are all the little things that allows you to build separation when it comes to defenders playing you in man-to-man or what have you. Because I think for Sara, you want to draw a man-to-man matchup, right? But, if you're in zone and whatnot, sometimes it is what it is. You still got to run crisp routes, and you got to take up your space, and then you got to force them to end up playing you in man by finding those open spots and whatnot, and, selling those routes and creating space. And so that's really something I want to see her continue to work on, just that route running, working on those small explosive steps out of those cuts, right? Working on that deceleration, acceleration, stop and go stuff. I think with the rehab that she's got going on, she's already going to be rehabbing, working on that. And so I would love to see if she can, definitely improve on that from where she was in high school. And I think she definitely can with what they got over there at Nebraska. And then last but not least, she is somebody who could play both ways. Played a lot of defense at safety here for Arvada West in high school. But personally, maybe I'm just wrong, right? But I have watched her for a couple years here. I don't know if it comes to her as naturally as her on offense. I feel like on offense, she could really set the tone. She knows her routes. She could bring the energy. She knows when she's getting the ball or what she needs to do to go get the ball. Defensively, I think she's somebody that probably just needs to continue to study opposing offenses and find where she can cause the most chaos in those game situations without, being overly aggressive or missing out on easy opportunities like pulling flags and stuff. I think that kind of maturity on defense sometimes only comes with time as well as studying here. And look, she's a great athlete, so if you throw her back there at safety or even if you put her at linebacker, she is tall enough to go disrupt a lot of things, fast enough to track down players and not be a minus as far as speed goes on a defense. Then obviously you have the hands. If they throw it anywhere her way, she's going to go pick it off. But I do think, just watching through some of her games, at least in high school, like I said, that was 2 years ago. Unfortunately, we don't have college film, but just what I was able to see, I feel like that there are times she understands concepts that teams are running, but won't exactly pick up on patterns or players that they are really trying to get the ball to in certain, like, very specific type of situations. But usually that results in her being in the general vicinity because, like I said, she recognizes these concepts. She knows, vaguely what they're trying to go for on these concepts, but maybe is a half step late, right? Maybe not as confident on, turning a poor deflection into an interception, a turnover, right? And so I think just continuous, just studying and really just, doing a deep dive into what offenses want to do would go a long way for her and will take her game to the next level. Because, like I said, she's a player that you could throw out there on defense and she's going to do her thing because she's a freak of nature, right? And if you utilize her correctly, which is the coach's job to figure that out, she's going to be fine. But for her to really take her game to the next level, it's not enough to just recognize concepts, but to recognize patterns that teams do. To recognize, okay, if it's 3rd and 10, what are they going to run right here? What are the things that they really like to go to, right? If it is 2nd down here, what are they trying to set me up for? Right? What are things that maybe I could let them get away with now that I could maybe drop the hammer on later and force a turnover in a key type of situation? That's the kind of mindset that I think she could definitely get herself into. I think offensively for her, she's definitely more invested, and I don't blame her. Scoring touchdowns and head topping is always super fun, and I think she's just more naturally offensively wired when it comes to flag football, at least from what I've seen. It seems that it comes to her very naturally. But the best players are versatile. The best players can play both ways. The best players dominate both sides of the football and, help teams win by dominating both sides of the football. And so definitely interested to see how she develops there. But I mean, at the end of the day, when you consider her as a prospect, I think the thing that stands out first and foremost is that, she is just one of those athletes that are built different. And as one of those athletes that are built different, if you are a coach, and the Sara sisters know this because they're great coaches, if you are a coach, you have to consider where to put your freak athletes and trust that they will put in the work and be the best version of themselves there. And, for Sara, I mean, obviously they're going to do that, but you can also help them out and continue to shore up that part of your game. And so I'm really excited for her. I think when you are just a freak athlete, it's very easy to get lazy. It's very easy to get complacent, but I know how hard she's worked. She loves this game. She grinds for this game. She is going to be an excellent player for the University of Nebraska here and really help set that tone early on as one of the skill players for them. And I think the thing I really like about this fit with her going to Nebraska is that, she really fits the mold of what the Sara sisters like in the receivers. At least it feels like as of lately, they like those taller receivers. I'm thinking of, Tatiana Dos Santos, Jocelyn Camacho, those type of receivers really who are a little bit taller and give you that advantage. And, in the past, they have shown that they can use those players and put them in situations to win and be super successful. And I think Sara Walker, as far as comparisons go, I think she kind of has that blend of an Ashley Clam, Tatiana Dos Santos type of vibe. I don't think she's as fast or as agile as a Clam, but when it comes to physicality, definitely see some Tatiana Dos Santos there as well. Hopefully seeing a little bit more of Jocelyn Camacho when it comes to route running too. But I think she really fits into that type of vibe. If I'm being honest though, I don't know if there's a straight up comparison for her because she is taller than Clam. I think she's also stronger than her too. I don't know if that's really a question. And we'll see, how the speed and agility translates because, like I said, I don't have college film right now. but I think it'll be decent enough, especially coming off an injury. But even then, I still think it'll be decent enough, 2 years or 1 year from now, whenever they are competing and playing in games. And so she could be somebody that, this game has not seen before. A true Megatron type of player, a Calvin Johnson type player who is tall, lean, strong, and is just a jump ball machine, right? But can also do the little things, but like running shorter routes and making things happen after the catch. And when she gets the ball, she's, could go and get some nice yards because of her speed, right? I think she could be one of those type of game changers if she continues to put in the work and develop. That is how high a ceiling I think she has. As far as NFL comparison, I think I already threw out Calvin Johnson. That could be a little bit of a lazier, comparison. I think Gronk is definitely up there. That's what I think about. Part of it is because I feel like Saylor Swanson has signs of Tom Brady in her as well, and watching her throw to Sara is like watching TB throw to Gronk, right? So I see a lot of that. I think if you want to go like really, really recent, Ted McMillan is probably up there as well as a decent comparison, but truly I think she could be her own player and be something that we have not seen before, and I'm extremely excited about that as far as the women's college flag game goes, because this is going to change everything. You're going to have to find corners that could go one-on-one with her with safety help like an Ashley Clam over the top, because she will wreck games with her catch radius and her big playmaking ability. And so I'm extremely excited for Sarah Walker. I've had the privilege to watch her since she was a sophomore, and even then she was dominant, and every year it feels like she's worked on a part of her game, whether it's her hands, whether it's her route running, whether it's, her yards after the catch, whether it's becoming a better defender as well, and she just works so hard, and I know how hard she works, and, I'm sure at this point, coming back from a season-ending injury, it's never an easy spot to be mentally, but, she knows we have her back, and, we have so much faith in her, and obviously, I have so much faith in her just by going over all the things that I was able to observe watching her these last couple years. But, it's just different when it comes to her. And you can point out, oh, well, it's just high school, or oh, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, she's competed, in the NFL circuit. She's competed at the Team USA stuff. You can pull up clips from there. And she's also still dominating. And so don't be surprised when she's wearing the Nebraska red over there and she's turning up over there for those Cornhuskers in Lincoln, because she could definitely be, a wide receiver one type of vibe for them over there. Not just because she's a great athlete, she's a great prospect, but because I think she's going to a coaching staff that knows how to use taller receivers and historically has had the most success with taller, bigger receivers who are more physical and whatnot and use their strength to their advantage. And so really excited for her, wishing her all the best of luck over at the University of Nebraska and wishing her all the best in her recovery as she ramps up for her first collegiate season here in 2028. All right, now last but not least, we have our last player we're going to talk about on this one, a Nebraska commit, the first Nebraska commit, the first athlete in history to go ahead and commit to a Power 4 D1 women's college flag football program in Nebraska, and that is Ariana Akey of Mountain Vista of Highlands Ranch here in Colorado, the two-time state champion. And fun fact, I believe she is undefeated in her time playing flag football in this state. A perfect 38-0. Like I said, two-time state champion. Former most valuable playmaker, all the accolades, All-American. She is it. She's one of the best players in the entire country. If we had to classify players by stars, she would be a 5-star, and here's why. I'm going to tell you exactly why she would be a 5-star. Here's what I got. So I got to watch, obviously, a lot of her high school games. State championship from 2 years ago against Mountain Vista. The state championship this last year in person versus the Legend. And then I also got to take a look at her play because she was the quarterback for Team AFC at the NFL Flag Girls High School Showcase at the Pro Bowl a couple months ago. On top of watching her play in the Oakley Icon League against other club teams like Texas Fury, the KC Shockers, SoCal Conquer, and all those squads. And so got to do a lot of film work. This has been a long time coming here. And, let's just get right into the things that make her elite. Number one, and I think this is obvious, but elite athleticism. First off, it may not say a lot because it's only been around for 2 years, but she's the only player in Colorado history to both have the most passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns in a season. Also, the only one to be top 10 in history with the most rushing and passing yards in the same season here in Colorado. She is a true dual threat. Her numbers speak for themselves. Career-wise, in 2 years and 38 games, 8,980 passing yards, 171 passing touchdowns to only 18 interceptions, only 9 picks thrown up through her 2 years here. And then rushing-wise, 2,769 rushing yards and 35 rushing touchdowns. Also add on a receiving touchdown just for fun there as well. She is an athlete. She could pass it, she could throw it, and this is a state where we got some pretty good athletes. If you checked her social media at Playmaker's Corner, you can see that through 2 years of, really 1 year and then 2 years of the pilot program, Colorado has 20 players who played or who was on a women's college flag football roster this last season. And then 16 of them played during the pilot or, the 1 year that it was sanctioned. And, you can look at those numbers. They don't lie. You got players who led their team in receptions, led their team in interceptions, and that's on the college level. These were the players that Ariana Akey was playing against and putting up points against, most importantly. Look, she is a freak of nature. Starting with this, her scramble ability is unlike anything that we have seen in girls' high school flag football, or in my opinion, the women's college flag football so far. For me, just scaling it down to competition and, making comparisons. I know it's early, usually do this at the end, but she is the athlete that is the most like Kyler Murray that I've ever seen. For those of you who don't know, I grew up in Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, shout out Plano, and Kyler Murray was easily the most dominant athlete I've ever seen. His ability to run around and break off 50-yard rushing touchdowns at the same time as throwing 50-yard passing touchdowns, uncanny. I have never seen another athlete do that at that level in similarity as Ariana Akey. Ariana Akey plays the most like Kyler Murray that I've seen in all my time. And I've been able to evaluate a lot of great boys football players, a lot of great girls flag football players as well. She is the most like Kyler Murray from an athletic standpoint. She's not a bruising speedster with long, strong strides who gets a lane and, will be gone. But she's somebody who will break you down in space like Kyler would and both tactically and quickly figure out how to get you off balance before making you match her quick change of direction. She will then use her elite acceleration and simply beat you before you can change directions. If you give her open lanes as a rusher, she will take them. But in open space, she's lethal and extremely hard to go ahead and take her flag and pull her down. She is just, like I said, like Kyler Murray, somebody who, may not be a world-class sprinter, but her stop-and-go ability, her agility, and then most importantly, the acceleration. That's the big thing here, is really what separates those athletes from other types of athletes. She's somebody that in space, like I said, breaks you down and then she's out of there. And Kyler was somebody who did that all the time. That was his game in high school, in college, and even in the pros right now. That's the type of scrambling quarterback that she is. And, that's the most annoying type, in my opinion, as someone who's played football. That's the most annoying type to play against because In an instant, she can change she can change nothing into something, and it only takes you making one mistake or seeing you do one small wrong thing, and she takes advantage of that. That is how elite of an athlete she is. As an athlete, I mean, could stop and go with the best of them. Her overall high-end speed would put her up with the best DBs in the country on the college level, in my opinion. And yet, she's just a smooth player. You can feel the power, though, in her acceleration as she breaks to the ball. Talking about her as an athlete playing on the defensive side, and then offensively as well, obviously, her acceleration is amazing. And then arm talent-wise, I mean, look, she has a strong arm. It's one of those arms where she flicks her wrist and it goes down the field 40, 50 yards pretty effortlessly and just throws a pretty spiral straight up. She is a natural thrower of the football, and she is very comfortable throwing on the run as well. To be able to throw on the run, I mean, that's another strength that I have listed here. That's her second best thing, I think, next to her athleticism. But her ability to throw on the run and just general flexibility, I mean, it just makes her the definition of magic. She is somebody that even when you think you got her pinned down, she'll find a way to make magic happen out of nowhere and make a play happen. And it's not always the most explosive play, but most of the time it's the play that you need, that her team needs for an offensive drive to be extended. Like I said, very comfortable throwing on the run, maybe even be better at throwing on the run rather than standing still. But her arm talent to consistently make plays off balance or out of base is what separates her from others. She is just super slippery. I mean, she is so dangerous when she's out of the pocket and breaks contain, and because she could either run or she could throw it, and she throws it pretty accurately. She could throw across her body. I mean, it's not recommended, but you could definitely do it and get the ball there on time, and just really make you have to consider the whole field when playing her. Nowhere is safe when playing Ariana Akey because she could either take you with her legs or through the air, and so you have to play as a defensive unit when you play against her here. So there you go. Other things to look at as well: game IQ, and not just as a quarterback, but like just in general. She's a football player. You can put her anywhere on the field, and I think she is smart enough to figure out her responsibility on the play, what the defense thinks her responsibility is, and what she needs to do to manipulate the defense into a mistake. Vice versa, as a defender, I mean, she has the knowledge of a quarterback, right? And she uses it well as a defender. She will manipulate you as a defender to do what you want, to put you in a tough bind. And what makes it worse is that you're already battling her athleticism. You have to be decisive when you play her and she's on the defensive side there, because she's going to make something happen. Her ability to just recognize patterns and, just be so football smart and know what you're trying to do and take that away is uncanny. She's definitely dangerous in that way. Continuing on with some of her strengths, talking about versatility, I already kind of mentioned some of it. While QB is the main position that she's listed at, and actually I think the only position she's listed at on her commitment graphic for now, just putting this out there, you can put her anywhere on the field, offense or defensively, and she can make it work. I think she is skilled enough to be an elite receiver or defender, as well as an elite quarterback. Her athleticism really helps her just adjust to anywhere on the field, because at the end of the day, she's a plus in athleticism anywhere you put her on the field. You need to have that type of speed on the field if you want to win. That gives you the best chance to win when you have that type of athlete on the field. And so you really can't go wrong where you put her. But like I said, her football IQ and just ability to learn and recognize patterns, as well as just her processing in general, to not only quickly adapt to a position but excel at it, really separates her from other people and other athletes. And I knew kind of what she did as a quarterback, but I really took this time to evaluate her as a defender. And just watching a lot of her senior film, she is such a menace on defense. As a rusher, she has the explosiveness and change of direction to be elite. She plays situations so well. In that Pro Bowl showcase thing, they threw her in that rusher against Daisy Throckmorton, and she forced her into making some really bad decisions. Not once, not twice, but multiple times, and really, really rattled her, I felt. That's how elite of a rusher that Ariana Akey as well. And that's somebody who got a D1 to Cal Poly. So let that tell you what it needs to tell you. But she is somebody that could be so chaotic on the defensive side because of her athleticism and just her smarts that she is truly a game changer. I think she is somebody that, I mean, you could plug and play at rusher, and she would be a starter for this team at rusher for Nebraska. I think, really, you could put her on most flag football teams on the college level, and she would be a starting level rusher. There may be one or two that won't go with her, but you got to get her in there. Because at the end of the day, I still think she has speed that, this game has not really seen yet on the college level. Or it's seeing some, right? But not like this. Not like this. I think that game speed is definitely different. And so if you put her at rusher, I think she's an automatic starter for Nebraska. I'm just being honest with you. Maybe they get somebody else to do that, but she's definitely that you could plug and play over there, because I think right now you could plug and play her anywhere in the country there. Now, I think she played mostly at linebacker when she played for Mountain Vista, and I think she could do it. I think there are some times that, maybe she doesn't see the development of plays right away and has to play it a little bit more safe. If I was a coach, I'd rather have her being chaotic and, not having to make big decisions like that and just utilizing her speed in a chaotic way at rusher rather than waiting at her at, just having her wait around at linebacker. But at linebacker, she's fully capable. She sees plays develop and she uses her athleticism to force turnovers. I think there are a lot of times this season, just looking at her defensive stats here, a lot of times this season where, her playing on the defensive side changed games. She had 102 flag pulls, 10 interceptions, 11 pass deflections as a linebacker. I think mostly as a linebacker, I would say, is what it looked like to me. And that's saying something because she's mostly playing in zone in a lot of these. If you really wanted to, I think she's athletic enough to develop her into the best DB, the best corner in the country. If you need a true lockdown, man-to-man Deion Sanders type of corner, I think she could develop into that. And I don't say that lightly, but if she actively trains playing in man and playing coverage and studying just the hell out of route concepts and all of that stuff that DBs need, I really feel like that she could be a number one DB in the country as well. Because that's how talented she is as in pass coverage. As a linebacker, she attacks the ball well. She's physical, attacking the ball, breaking up passes over the middle, getting hands on them, getting interceptions, pulling flags. She's a sure thing over there. I think you could literally play her anywhere on this defense, and she would be a plus. So there you go. I think as great of a quarterback as she is, I think she also might be the number one defensive prospect in the country because of how versatile she is. You could put her anywhere. She could cover, she could rush, she could flag pull, you could have a read concept, she could direct the defense. I watched her on film do it all and do it at a very high level on the way to another undefeated season. So just keep that in mind. And then last but not least, she has great ball skills. Those hands are legit. She has the ability to make some tough catches. You could see it in the state championship game against Arvada West. I'll never forget the game-sealing interception she had where she just felt like she leaped out the building to go make a crazy interception, leaped out the stadium to make a crazy interception to seal that one. And that's just great hands. If you watch her defensive film, she attacks the ball so well, tips it to herself regularly, and that's mostly when she's the shorter player against taller wide receivers. She has a very good hand-eye coordination, and it's just yet another skill that separates her from the rest if there wasn't enough already. So there you go. She does a lot of great things here. let's talk about some of the things she will work on, and I will pretty much focus on at quarterback here. As a defender, I think if she truly dedicated herself to it and did a lot of studying, she could be an elite defender. I think there's some small details like playing man-to-man as a DB, as a corner, that, she could definitely work on leverage-wise, rushing-wise, same thing. There are some things that she could work on that she could smooth out. I think there are times where, she is a little too comfortable, going up the middle and doesn't take those outside angles and force them around and stuff like that. But that's just me, right? I think if she really focused on it, she could be a great defender. Right now, I think she's a very good defender. That's great in versatility. And that's not a bad thing at all. And with Ariana Akey, one thing you got to really consider is that she was a cross-country athlete. So during the flag football season, she'd be running cross country, also running track, doing other sports, and obviously she's a great student as well. So flag football wasn't always her main focus, or one of her main focus. Now that she's committed as a D1 prospect, it definitely can be. Obviously, there's always going to be, school and, all that stuff, right? But I think giving her some time to learn the defensive side, she can be extremely dangerous and really shore up smaller details of playing on a defense and being a lockdown corner or rusher or linebacker. So there you go. But I want to talk about the things that I think she can improve on as a quarterback, because that's what she's listed at right now for Nebraska. That is quarterback. And so let's talk about it. I think number one, and we've talked about it before, or at least I've discussed it with, people around her before, but I think she's still improved on her touch and timing on throws, but it's definitely something that she could still work on. When it comes to layering passes over the middle into a spot of the field that, may not be open but will be open, or throwing those type of throws, really anticipating throws, I think that's something that she struggles with from time to time, if any. Her timing has definitely improved, like I said, from junior to senior year, but I think she can work on anticipating those throws and making them with decisiveness a little bit better. And honestly, look, that may be a result of her dual threat ability, because I feel like all dual threat quarterbacks just feel like that because they can also run with the ball and extend plays, that they can hold on to the ball and wait for something to open up. And I feel like, you can watch her play. I feel like that's something that's definitely in her mind, that she's going to try not to feel super rushed, because she will always feel like that she can extend a play, hold on to the ball, and make something happen. And unfortunately, that's just something that a lot of young dual-threat quarterbacks do. They do a little bit of too much, holding on the ball for a little bit too long. And, sometimes, they hold on to the ball believing they can make a play happen later, when the true timeline of a play was within the first 2 seconds. And that's just kind of something that, that's just another thing that she's going to learn as she continues to grow as a quarterback. She did not play during the pilot season, mind you, so these are her 2 years of her playing quarterback for Mountain Vista, and then as well, she's played club for Lace Up Junior. Shout out Rio and Lacey over there as well. But other than that, still very young in her career as a quarterback. These are things that it's going to take time for her to really just understand, hey, I need to make plays right away, or this is what the situation needs right now. And so far, because it's a high school level and she is just a better athlete than everyone else, she's going to go undefeated, and some of those things may be overlooked just slightly. But when you play on the college level, it's going to get tougher. Athletes are way better. You got, number one athletes from other teams all teamed up on one squad playing on the college level. That's what it is. And, those frames and those decisions, and though that margin for error becomes a lot smaller than before. And so for her, I want her to continue to work on those little things, just having that game awareness, and then as well as working on that timing, touch, and anticipation. There are going to be plays where, you have to read. You have to read the pre-snap defense. And then you have to understand the pre-snap defense, because what may be shown out there is not what it may seem. They may shift into something else. They may just stay there. You never know, right? And, that's just something that you can only do through studying a defense and knowing what they really want to do, what they like to do, what their patterns are, what they tend to do on certain downs, what they tend to do in certain situations, what type of personnel may give away what they like to do as well. Those are the things that she's going to have to study and know, so that in pre-snap, it's like, okay, I may not have time. I'm going to be rushed by two people here. This is a ball that needs to come out right after the snap. Has to come out right after the snap. And that's just something she's going to have to anticipate. I think she can continue to get better at that. I feel like I said, playing on the high school level, it's just a different game from the college level here. And there were a few times, I think, here, I'll count it right now, but I don't know. I mean, it's not like a big deal, right? It's just something to continue to shore up. But I think there's only been one Cherry Creek. That was her junior year. And then her senior year, she threw 2 against Arapahoe, 2 against Arvada West, 2 against Grandview. So 4 schools, 4 in her history of playing in Colorado has forced her to commit multiple turnovers. 2, that is. She's only committed 2 at most. And that is saying something. That's obviously high efficiency on her end, but that also means that, on the next level, there are going to be some tougher programs that are going to do a lot more than a lot of those teams, and she just needs to be ready for that. I think a lot of people on the high school level really focused on just stopping her from running the ball, which, yes, of course, but when you have enough athletes, that doesn't become as big of a concern as the things on the back end. And so for Akey, would love to see her continue to develop her pre-snap reads and just recognizing, what teams are trying to do to get after her. I will say this, because we do know one of the coaches of the programs that were able to force her to have a rare multi-turnover game. That is actually Cody from the podcast. He coaches Arapahoe. They're able to force 2 interceptions here, and I think their offense only scored 21. And Cody has allowed me to share a little bit of the game plan when playing Ariana Akey here. And even then, they still lost, 35-0 or whatever. But like I said, one of 4 teams to force her to throw multiple turnovers. But I mean, the big things when playing in Akey is that you cannot give her a lane outside. There has to be a body between her and the sideline, and you have to keep contained. You have to keep contained no matter what, and not give her too much of an inside lane to maneuver and just take off either. I think the big things he really focused on was rolling that outside rusher on her right side just a little bit wider, so if she rolls out, she's there, and then having that backside contain in a slow pursuit just to take away that, because she will do one of those rolling out right and then, oh my God, spin left and then throw type deals. You want to take away that little half spin and just keep her going right. And then in the coverage side of things, you're looking at a lot of catered cover 2 concepts, stopping flood concepts and stuff like that. So you see the defense shifting over with Akey as you have that contain as well. And then obviously she had a great check down target in Brandon Looney. If you check down if you take away the check downs, it makes Akey go through more reads, and it gives you a better chance to fluster her a little bit more if she's having to hold on to the ball and then she's not able to run. And so for Akey, if you were to go ahead and battle that, and she did, right, because she is a better athlete than, I mean, no offense, but then most of those rushers, and was able to make things happen, that just means recognizing the defense that they're trying to put you in. Recognizing, okay, if they're trying to run this cover 2, if they're trying to stop this flood, where do I need to go get yards and get out of this? Because eventually they're going to shift out of it. There's no way that a team sticks into a defense for that long. And so what do I got to do to get them out of this defense? And that's the type of thinking that I want Ariana Akey to continue to have moving forward as a quarterback. You got to anticipate that teams are, first and foremost, they're going to take away the run. So you need to attack them through the air. That means making some tough passes. And that was a big thing that he emphasized as well. They would rather have her throw a tough, like extremely tough, low percentage pass and complete it than take off or get a check down, right? And so to complete those, you have to anticipate the defense. You have to anticipate, all these things that are going down as well. What your receivers running, the routes, the leverage and whatnot that they've been getting. Have they been beating their matchup on that side? And then you got to take it. Those are quick decisions that you make within 2 seconds. That you have to make within 2 seconds, because I think the other thing with the Akey is that you have to send 2 each side. I think there were too many programs, including Legend in the last state championship, that sent 1, and she went off for 365 yards against them, and then another 104, and 5 touchdowns too. So against Akey, you have to send 2. And so with that being known, you will get some one-on-one matchups, so that's something that she will be able to recognize as time goes on. And so I think that's just something I'd like for her to continue to work on. The timing, the anticipation, that'll unlock another level of throws that she is able to make. And already, you could kind of already see her improve that. She improved that from junior to senior year. I still think it could be better and be more consistent. That'll be the big thing right there. Anyways, looking over some other weaknesses, stuff that she needs to work on. Like I said, I think there are times she could be a little bit too reliant on her athleticism, like running the ball, or she should be trying to, get her teammates involved and get them going and keeping them warm. It doesn't happen often, but there are ruts that happen, like in drives and quarters in games that she's played in. And this is especially a common thing in dual threats, especially dominant ones. They will get into the mindset of like, okay, well, if they're not going to catch it, I'm going to run it, right? And because she's still a young quarterback, there's learning to be done to find that good balance about throwing and running and help control the pace of the game better. And honestly, she's done a better job. If you look at her stats, let me go ahead and pull it up. From her junior year to her senior year, you see a lot more receiving stats passing stats here, passing yards, in my opinion. I think she threw for more, 4,500 to 100 more, right? But it's definitely up, and that's a good thing, and that's something to consider because, she had a lot of seniors on that first championship squad here, and so for that production to not drop off, obviously she's been working to really get her players involved and get them going, and so I think finding that balance and making sure you're consistent in that game by game is going to be huge for her. So there you go. But honestly, other than that, there's really not too many weaknesses in her game as a quarterback. Yeah, the timing, anticipation, it could be a thing, but it has definitely improved. Like a lot, I feel like, from junior to senior year. And if she stays on that trajectory, I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. Yeah, there are times she holds onto the ball too much. What dual threat doesn't, right? But I think that's something that'll be fixed with time here. In the end, she's a true 5-star prospect. There is no true scouting or ranking system yet for girls flag, but in girls flag football, I think you have to consider whether a player is versatile or not. That versatility matters because you only have a certain amount of scholarships you could give out. This isn't boys football where you could have 100 whatever players on scholarship on the D1 level. No, I think you have 25. I think maybe at max. I can't remember. It's less than 30 for sure on the Power 4 level. And so with all that considered, if you are not a versatile player, then you are not as valuable as other players. Straight up. And Ariana Akey might be the Miss Versatility in the entire country. Quarterback, she's a dual threat. On top of that, she could be a receiver. On top of that, she could be a rusher. On top of that, she could be a linebacker. On top of that, she could be a DB. She could play anywhere you need her to play because her athleticism allows her to do that. Her IQ allows her to do that. Her just overall instincts as a football player allows her to do that and do that at a high level. If you look at the Pro Bowl game here, where she is playing against, some of the top players in the country, she played a great game. Yes, it was only one score, but when you look at it, there was one drive where, the touchdown was dropped. There was another one where she was rolling out, It was fourth down. She threw the ball. She probably could have took it in either way and sidestepped the defender in front of her, but she chose to roll left and she threw it and it was on the money. She just happened to have a leg in front of the line of scrimmage, and so that was a touchdown. That was another one taken away. On top of that, I mean, her at rusher, there are so many dropped interceptions because of the rush that she was able to put on Daisy Throckmorton in this game. Like, come on now. Yes, it was 7-6, but realistically, if they're on it, this easily could have been like a 28-6 type of deal. Easily. And it's hard, whenever you play all these all-star teams because you don't know everyone and stuff like that, right? I also will say I think Akey missed an open throw to Lucy Thompson in the end zone. This one was just off the money. The timing was a little bit off there, but still played great. And so you consider all these things, the athleticism, the game IQ, the winning ability, undefeated here in Colorado, which is a flag football state, like it or not. You could check the graphic. You cannot fly over Colorado and, not expect to miss out on a big-time prospect. If you are recruiting women's college flag football and you are coming out west, you could go out west, but you got to stop in Colorado first. That's just what it is, because there's too much talent to pass up, and we're still early stages too. We're talking about Saylor Swanson, Sara Walker, Ariana Akey, all three being Power 4 commits, and they just started playing flag football just got sanctioned here in Colorado 2 years ago. We're going into season 3 now. And so with all of that being said, she's playing in a flag football state, dominating, 38-0, playing some tough teams, a lot of teams who are going to get players from those teams and build their programs with. It is hard to argue with the production. She has been big time. She's been tearing it up all over. I will say, when she plays fives, because I have watched a little bit of that, there's a little bit more of, you could see, the lack of anticipation and timing at times because it is a much quicker game. But there's, she still gets her clips. There's still times that she dominates and she wins and she's just like that, and so at the end of the day, I feel like she's a true 5-star prospect, if not the number 1 prospect in the country out of the class of 2026 going to Nebraska. She could do it all. I think if she's not an elite quarterback, she's an elite defender, literally anywhere on the field. That is how talented she is, and the stats don't lie, the film don't lie. I mean, like I said, I've watched her for a number of years, watched her in games, and I've talked to other coaches, and even the game plans they give me, it's like, well, you could still run that, and she could still go off because she's like that, And, I mean, you could watch her play out of state comp. It doesn't change, still dominates, athleticism, all that's still there. So with all that being said, now going to Nebraska, she was their first commit, ever. It is interesting to say, listed as a quarterback. We talk about versatility, we talked about all those things, but she is on her graphic listed as a quarterback going to Nebraska. And look, I'm just going to be straight up with it. A big part of what makes her such a great player is her versatility. But for her to be the only commit with 1 position listed, just kidding, that's a lie. Emma Mary from Florida is listed at just receiver. But everyone else, I'm going to go down the line. This is what they're listed at. We got Marley Spielberg, wide receiver, DB, QB. Anna Anderson, listed at wide receiver and DB first, and then QB. Jada Bayron, wide receiver, DB, QB. Jelani Palmer, DB, wide receiver. Saylor Swanson, QB, wide receiver, DB. Sara Walker, wide receiver, DB. So, other than that 1 receiver, for her to be the only one listed at quarterback definitely shows, it shows something. It shows that they have faith in her as a quarterback, obviously, and as their quarterback of the future. Now, we're not going to mean that she is going to be given the quarterback spot here. Obviously, Saylor Swanson has quarterback listed first. You have other players who have quarterback experience as well. There's going to be a quarterback battle. That's how they do things over there. There's going to be a quarterback battle, and it's going to come down to if I had to choose, probably either Saylor or Ariana Akey. I know I'm biased, but that's just what it is, right? And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. But I will say this, Ariana Akey really fits what Ottawa has loved to do in the past at the quarterback position. They have loved playing a dual threat over there. Anna Anderson this last year. Madison Carrera all those other years before, who, by the way, out of high school, I believe was a wide receiver, switched over to quarterback, and she had a lot of versatility as a flag football player coming out of high school to college herself. And so we could see history repeat itself as they find their franchise program quarterback here. Look, she is extremely talented. There are things that she does on the field that other players can train for forever and will not be able to do that. Just plain and simple. But even if she doesn't play quarterback for some reason, she will literally be a star somewhere else on this team. That is how talented she is. Getting to the comparisons, let's talk about it. I think I already said it. Kyler Murray as a quarterback, I got to watch Kyler Murray's rise firsthand. I got to watch his games where, he went undefeated in Texas, a football state, right? Colorado being a flag football state, Texas being a football state, both quarterbacks going undefeated and winning multiple state championships. I think there's a lot of similarities in those accolades, and I think there's a lot of similarities in the way they play the game. They're able to win games because they can beat you in multiple ways. And I just see it, maybe a little bit shorter at quarterback, I guess, but not that much shorter, in my opinion, and it's worked, and I think she is just the most like Kyler Murray out of any quarterback I've seen, and I definitely mean that. As far as the defensive side goes here, men's side of things is hard. Micah Parsons because of the rushing and, drop back ability. Patrick Peterson just because of the straight athleticism. But I think there are better comparisons to make on the women's flag football side, so let's go to there. I think as far as women's flag football goes, Madison Carrera is probably the closest comparison to Ariana Akey, but I will say this. I think Akey... I think as far as the arm talent goes, they're probably around the same, but I do think Akey is a better athlete, or at least I should say a more twitchy athlete. That might be the better thing to say right there about her. So there's that. And then Caleb Burrows, I think, is a great comparison, a great versatile player who was a great receiver for Weber, great DB, great linebacker. I see a lot of that in her game. Lauren Clark, the way Warner was able to use her as a rusher, linebacker, I think she's definitely up there as well. Obviously, you got to throw in Sue Kaufman, the way they were able to use her, DJ Paris, the way they were able to use her at Ottawa. I think a lot of the things that Ariana Akey did at Mountain Vista defensively is what, Sue and DJ did for Ottawa. And, that's something that really excites me because I think that's just such a clear fit for her schematically for that Nebraska squad right there. But, like I said, listed at quarterback, and I think maybe the favorite to go ahead and win that position, but it is going to be a quarterback battle, like it or not. And even then, even if she doesn't win, I think you got to find a way to get her on the field because her athleticism alone is a plus. You cannot afford not having her on the football field because she is a game changer. With mistakes and all, because those are coachable, right? She's an extremely coachable player. So I think with all that being said, in my opinion, and I guess this is the challenge, right? Until somebody else shows me a player that's better, I believe that Ariana Akey is the number one prospect in this class of 2026, hands down. From a versatility aspect, from a talent aspect, from everything, number one in the class of 2026 here out of Colorado. And if you think I'm wrong, send me film. I will do a film breakdown on your players from other states. And that's actually the point of this. In this off season here, we are looking to highlight the next great flag football players on the college level. We really want to highlight these next great stars here and, see what they have to bring to the college ranks, because every year there's going to be new programs. There's going to be programs that rise and fall. We would love, love, love to be able to cover those players like we did on this one, because legitimately, I look at Saylor, Sara, and Ariana. I think they are the future of this sport. Yes, I'm biased for sure, but Saylor, they all have proven records here in state. If you look at Saylor and what she was able to do in those 3 games, those are not scrub programs at all, mind you. And you can watch those games for yourself. And she got to prove herself in those games. And I'm excited for Sara and Ariana to get a chance to go ahead and prove themselves. But, what they've done on film and, just being able to break that down and see the consistencies and patterns in their games that make up what makes them great, it's hard to deny. And I am open to that argument, but right now, this is the film I got, and it is really good. They've competed well. Obviously, the Sauer sisters at Nebraska agree, and all the other colleges that have offered them as well, and I think the future is super bright for them and the sport, and I'm wishing them all the best of luck. But like I said, if you think that there are players better than Ariana Akey or some of these players, or players that, are very good and deserve some recognition and you want a film breakdown on, let us know. It's going to be a long off season here, and I want to get more into film breakdowns and doing those, and we got some good stuff coming up here. I will be doing a revisit of our Texas Fury film breakdowns. I'll be looking at the college film of Ava Wallace, Ashley Clam, and Lauren Clark, and we're going to revisit their film breakdown and do that one again. I think that'll drop hopefully in June here, sometime later this month. And then I know there's some other games I want to watch. I want to watch and break down Weber's last tournament, Siena Heights' last tournament at that NCC FFL thing. And there's just so much that I want to break down. There's other great quarterbacks on the college level that we're going to break down. So it's not just high school players. It will be college players that we'll be looking at and talking about what makes them great and how we feel like, they're going to contribute moving forward, and some things that maybe we want to see from them moving forward here. So really excited about that. The way this game is going, there's so much content that's coming out now, so we appreciate you rocking with us, who is putting out this women's college flag football content. But we just want to make sure that we highlight these great players and what they do great, but at the same time, we're not going to go easy on them. Ariana, they know this. Here at the Playmakers Corner, we try to tell it how it is. We'll be straight up with you about your game. I know they've seen other people get their film broken down and whatnot as well, especially on the boys' side of things. And, we do it with love. We do it because we feel like that you can hit another level in your game if we're looking at your film and breaking down that film. And usually it's stuff they already know, right? Usually it's stuff that they would admit and be like, yeah, I could be a little bit better at this. I could do a little bit more research and be a little bit more comfortable and more consistent against more teams, right? That's usually something that comes up. And then you have some that don't feel that way, but, it is what it is. We are going off of what we see with our own eyes on film, and, we're excited to be able to cover more players and do that moving forward. So there you go there. Make sure you check us out at the Playmakers Corner and at theplaymakerscorner.com. Eventually, I will make a tab, a film breakdowns tab with my notes on there and some other things from this episode about these great players, and we'll include all that stuff there because we take a lot of pride in our research and in the work we do in these breakdowns. So be on the lookout for those. Make sure you check out our past episodes on the women's college flag football season back here in 2026, as well as our Colorado high school flag football coverage from years ago when we covered Saylor, Sara, Ariana, and all of them, which were some great times for sure. But make sure you check those out as well. But until next time, we'll catch you later.